Hello, everyone. I am Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker and the host of this Daisy Jones and the Six Rewatch podcast. Now, when I speak, my topic is something I call Take the Doughnut. It's another way to say carpe diem, and it's all about going after the things that you want in life. One of the things I wanted to do this year was rewatch the show Daisy Jones and the Six, and this time talk about it with other people. And here we are. We're all 10 episodes in. We did it. The only thing left to do is for me to do this podcast and talk about it. But hopefully, we've all seen the entire show so far. And we're going to talk about episode 10 today, track 10, which is called Rock and Roll Suicide. It originally aired March 24th, 2023. It was in that last batch of episodes that dropped. It was written for television by Harris Denow and directed by Nzinga Stewart. And we have a lot to get into, but here's the quick description. So, tensions arise between the members as the band prepares to play a sold-out show in Chicago, unaware that this would be their final performance. Earlier that day, Camilla confronts Billy about his feelings for Daisy. Tired of being constantly sidelined, Eddie tells Billy that he's leaving the band and admits his fling with Camilla. Billy punches him and begs Camilla to come to the show, after which he relapses. Karen admits the abortion to an upset Graham. Before the show, Billy and Daisy kiss, but she's concerned when she realizes he's intoxicated. Graham confesses his love for Karen, who lies to him that she does not reciprocate in order to keep him from the family life he wishes for. Daisy urges Billy to make amends with Camilla before leading a performance of Look at Us Now as an encore. The next day, the band goes their separate ways. It's revealed that the documentary interviewer is a grown-up Julia, and that Camilla had recently died due to a long-time illness. Julia shows Billy and Daisy footage of Camilla encouraging them to contact each other. Billy knocks on Daisy's door and she opens it with a smile. That is the summary. Don't you worry, even though I just recapped the whole thing once, I'm going to do it again in greater detail. What a fun show, you know? One of the things that I want to say actually before I start off is that while this is the episode recap for the 10th episode, and you may be thinking, well, that's got to be it, right? Actually, no. I've been working on interviews with a variety of members of the cast and crew. I've got a couple of bonus episodes that I've been working on, a couple that I've already done. One of them, I'm just going to mention, I've actually done a podcast episode where I compare the book and the show. And I am guessing that I might make small references to that as I'm talking about this particular episode because the Camilla stuff goes down a little differently between the book and the show, and I much prefer it in the show. But I can imagine that everybody with their own personal life experiences and histories has a preference, one over the other, or neither, or or Daisy or Camilla. Like, I'm sure people weigh in different areas, and I imagine a lot of that has to do with what you've experienced in your life or, your stances on things, and that's totally okay. But I do think that the way this show wraps up feels very, very different to me from the book in a way that I needed because I was really unsatisfied with how it wrapped up in the book. And I think I remember the first time I watched this show and was feeling like I was starting to, maybe I was going to be unsatisfied by the end of the show, and then they brought me back by the end. So I don't know. It's kind of an interesting ride this Daisy Jones and the Six brings you through for both the book and the show, and whatever you start with first. Having said all that, let's do the scene by scene breakdown. Let's talk about what we're getting here. So we dive straight into the opening credits. So it looks like if you're keeping the tally that I've been trying to keep, I think I've said we've got 2 cold opens with this show, and everything else has been straight to credits. And then from there, from Patti Smith's Dancing Barefoot, we are going to go to basically introduce the final performance again. So we're going to get the crowd cheering, where it starts black, crowd cheering, and then we now get a picture. We see a big stadium. We get the title card of Chicago. We're going to cut to Daisy's back. It doesn't really blend on her back. It kind of cuts to her back as she's walking onto the stage. She's got this sheer dress on, which is we're going to see that it's this beautiful white dress that just has these really, it's I have no language to describe this dress. I'm so sorry, but it's kind of ribbed and it's just got this beautiful flowing look. And that's going to be really important for an image that we're going to get in a moment. And on the screen, we see again on October 4th, 1977, Daisy Jones and the Six performed to a sold out crowd at Soldier Field in Chicago, Illinois. This may bring back to your mind that we basically opened the show this way. We basically started this whole series in episode one announcing that the Chicago show was going to be their final show. They showed us clips of the show, and then they said, "Hey, this was a huge performance, and it was their last one." Um, and now we're bookending it. We're bringing it back to this, and we're even introducing it the same way. So we're going to hear the announcer's voice at this stadium at Soldier Field. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen," we're looking out at the stage. We see a packed crowd. He says, "Daisy Jones and the Six," and we hear applause, thunderous applause. We watch as the band takes the stage. They're waving to the crowd. Get a little bit of drums here just to get us going. Daisy, one of the most iconic images of the show for me, she's standing at her mic with Billy's off to the side. He's also in frame, and she just raises her arms. I have a wall next to me. She keeps raising it to the side, and they come up over her head. And because she's got these beautiful flowing arms, she just looks like a butterfly just standing there. Um, uh, Perfect attire, great way to show it off, and perfect camera angle to capture this in terms of also like where the light was coming from. I just adored everything about how this shot got made and what was in the frame. And then you'll also notice that Billy, who's off to the side, is watching her do this, and he's just so turned on by Daisy, but we don't really know at this point where they're at. But he's fixated Billy again. He is all the way fixated Billy in this moment. So, okay, we're going to see the intertitle come up again. It would be their final performance. Just to remind us, we've been told this was the final performance before, and they're reminding us again. We're still hearing the cheers of the crowd. A lot of what we're going to hear in this episode is, the music we're hearing, any like monologuing, Daisy or Billy do into the mic. It's pretty much always got the sounds of like a crowd of 50,000 people behind them. So there's a definitely amplified ambient crowd noise here. So, okay. So Warren's going to bring down the drumsticks to start off Regret Me. That's where they're opening this show. We're going to see Daisy and Billy starting to shimmy a little bit. Karen's on the keys. Daisy comes to the mic. Initially, we're getting what feels to me like sort of unemotional camera shots, just showing us everybody, but not telling us the story yet. They're going to tell us the story. They just want to start by giving us what feels like a bit of a blank slate, and then we're going to grow it from there. So then we're going to get this camera angle. It's not over Billy's shoulder, but it's sort of through his side to Daisy. And then we're going to see that angle as they start singing "You Regret Me and I'll Regret You." They look at each other, except I don't care what you feel, and I totally already do. We're going to get interview Graham saying, "If you had told me that morning that it would be our last show, I mean, I would have laughed." We get a lot of, something I haven't been doing on this rewatch is looking at how often they throw to the interview content in each episode. If I had to guess, this episode is longer, so it's a little unfair. But if I had to guess, pound for pound, there's probably more interview footage spliced into this episode than the others. That's my guess. That's my initial take on it, but I'd be curious if anybody's actually done the math on this one or done the tally on it. We're gonna get a wistful look in 77 from Karen to Graham. The wistful look is from Karen to Graham. His eyes are closed. Karen looks a little blank here, but also a little bit upset. We're starting to build a picture of how people are feeling. Eddie looks fully pissed off and he has a black eye. Going back to Karen and Graham for a moment here, we're going to get in the beginning of this performance, the whole beginning, we're going to get a whole bunch of shots where we see Karen looking at Graham, almost willing him to look back at her, and he doesn't. And then he finally does towards the end. So that becomes a bit of a running theme as we're going through the concert footage. Daisy and Billy keep singing with a natural gift how I move, so go ahead and regret me, but I'm beating you to it, dude. Interview Eddie, looks to the camera, speechless. Nobody really knows what to say about this concert right now. We're going to need interview Julia to step in and help them with that. But we do know that Eddie's got a black eye in 77 right around now. So, what happened there, you might be asking. Go ahead and regret me, but I'm beating you to it, dude. We're gonna get Billy's patented my favorite part of the song. You regret me and I'll regret you. They're both singing it together. We're gonna see Daisy and Billy from the side. I find it perfectly natural. Here my card be doing. We look from the backdrop as if the camera is fixed somewhere in the backdrop out to the fans. They really, in this episode, they pull out all the final stops. It's the biggest show. They're trying to give us as many crowd shots as they can. And of course, we know that they didn't actually fill Soldier Field with 50,000 fans. And even if they could get that many extras, it was also COVID, right? Just post-COVID. So they really were dealing with a limited situation here. So they got, as many people as they could in the room. And then they, enhanced. They enhanced a lot. And whether you like that or not, folks, this was the option we had. Okay. So, all right. So in this case, we're from the backdrop looking out to the fans for a moment. We get interview Warren saying, I was just out having such a good time, man. I didn't want to see it. We go back to the concert. Daisy saying, go ahead and regret me, but I'm beating you to it, dude. She gives sort of like a flirty side eye to Billy with a little smile. He smiles at her. We're going to see another shot from over the fans onto the stage, which usually means Billy and Daisy and the band look a bit further away. Billy and Daisy are saying, go ahead and regret me, but I always will too regret you. We're going to see Graham focused on his guitar, like I said, not on Karen, not thinking about Karen right now. We're going to see the camera then puts her in focus behind him. We're kind of at his side and they kind of rack focus back to her. She's looking at him still. Again, just sort of willing him to look at her. So it just makes you really start to think about what could have happened here. These little images that they're giving us make you want to know how the rest of the story is going to unfold because you see all of these little signals, these signs of what has gone down today. Billy and Daisy are continuing, go ahead and regret me. We're going to see interview Karen. She's tearing up looking at the camera. She's speechless. But I always will too regret you. It's an interesting song to put behind this section because, sometimes their lyrics are really on the nose with what we're seeing. And in this case, just the word regret coming up so much. Is it regretting being in the band? Probably not. Is it regretting what happened that day? Maybe yes, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know that everybody has regrets about this. There was certainly a lot of pain to be shared on this particular day. We're then going to get kind of an interesting camera choice here because we're going to the camera shoots Billy, but sort of from kind of fairly close up and sort of underneath at a bit of an upward angle. It's not an especially flattering angle, and I don't mean that as an insult in terms of like the cinematography. I mean that as maybe the clue we're meant to be getting to Billy right now is there's something really unflattering happening for him. Like he's looking a little worse for the wear at the moment, and we don't have all the context why that is. But we do know that this is a little bit more of like a reckless look at Billy, who is being reckless right now. So I think it's a good hint that we're getting here, even though it's a very subtle one. And so then we're going to get interview, we're continuing the lyrics. I will always will too regret you. We get interview Daisy. She's tearing up when she thinks about this final performance. And then the song ends. Billy has a really big flourish. And it's been a minute since we've seen a flourish like that from Billy. Yeah, he was excited for the Pittsburgh show, but what's this one about? Daisy thinks it's a little weird. You can see it on her face, like, you're not quite where you normally are with things. So, what's going on with Billy? We might be asking ourselves. Interview Billy says there's still a lot you don't know. Just what I was thinking, interview Billy. Okay. We are going to hear Daisy on stage as we watch Billy go backstage to take a drink from a flask. Oh, what's this? What's all this? I mean, wait and yeah, don't bury the lead on this one. I mean, this feels like the story to report for Billy right now. It's probably why, though, we've started the way we did with showing us how Billy looks on stage. Daisy saying, "Good evening, Chicago. We're so happy to be here tonight. We're going to get our title card. We're going to get track 10, Rock and Roll Suicide." And then we're going to get, okay, we're going to get an establishing shot of the hotel that they're staying in, which has actually a name of the hotel on the outside, but I couldn't quite make it out. So they later refer to the hotel as the Beaumont. I'm assuming that this is the Beaumont and that Camilla never like vacates the room later in this episode. So I'm thinking all of this happens at the Beaumont. My understanding is I think they shot all this at the Roosevelt Hotel. Um, but this is what I'm thinking happened here. One of the things they do in this episode is they're actually going to give us timestamps. So we're going to start with 11:54 a.m. And that really tells you we started in the 60s. We started with, some of these people being just youngins. And now we've brought them up. We've told big sweeping sections of story and entire episodes. And now we've gotten into this to a point where it's a less than 24-hour period. And it really compresses things. It makes it feel like every moment is important. It makes it feel like every minor detail is huge here because everything is getting reported to us as being a part of this story that needs to be told. Okay, so it's 11:54 a.m. Then we get another flash over the screen that says 10 hours earlier. So inside the hotel, we see Julia is pulling at Camilla's skirt. They've all just arrived at this hotel. They're checking in. Julia's trying to get her mom's attention. We pan up on Camilla. She can't look at Billy. She doesn't even she actually can't deal with her child right now either. Her arms are folded, her head's in her hand. Billy's over here. She won't even look at him. Billy is smiling at Julia, but if you read the room here, Billy, it's not a good vibe. Camilla asks the babysitter, "Can you just take her?" "Thank you." Julia is walked away by the babysitter, and Billy's like, "Is everything all right?" Camilla sounds annoyed. She's she's at the end of her rope here with Billy. She says, "I don't know, Billy, is it?" He kind of chuckles, confused, because what is this? Or maybe he chuckles confused plus guilty because maybe he kind of knows what it might be. Of course, if you remember from where we ended the last episode, we know Camilla saw when Billy was like forehead to forehead with Daisy and they were having this intense conversation. She's admitting her feelings and he's like, "I feel the same way, but I can never be with you." I don't know that Camilla heard all that, but she certainly saw the body language and that didn't feel great. So here's the residue of that. She's annoyed. "I don't know, Billy, is it?" Rod comes up and he's like, "Okay." How many points do we want to give Timothy Oliphant for all of his reactions in this episode? All these line reads that are like one word lines where he's just like, "Well then," it's just so good. So we get our first one here. "Okay." And then he is obviously he's just walked in on something and he hands Billy a key. And now we start like a short running joke. Billy says, "Thank you." Billy and Camilla walk away. Rod says, "Sound checks at 4." Warren is talking to Eddie as those two walk up. He says, I saw your effing grandma, dude. She's having a great time, all right. So now we're carrying over what happened at the end of last episode to this one with Eddie, where, Eddie's all upset because Billy stole his thunder, took that final encore performance from him. Eddie was all excited to play that final song with Daisy in front of his grandma, and it was not to be, Eddie. Um, and so this is something Eddie's complaining to Warren about. That's what's happening when they walk up to Rod. Rod hands Warren a key. His mouth is hanging open, like, you guys too? He hands Eddie a key. He says, 4 o'clock, sound check. 4 o'clock. All right, they walk away. Next up, Graham and Karen, who have their own story that they're about to encounter Rod with. Graham, with enthusiasm to Karen, is like, do you want ginger ale? It's good for you. Yeah? Want ginger ale? Yeah? Yeah. Such a puppy dog. Because he thinks Karen's still pregnant. And she is not, because we saw Karen doing something about that at the end of the last episode. Karen says, no, thank you. Rod gives them their keys. He says, sound check is at 4, not 4:05, not 4:15, or he goes sing-songy with that. Timothy Oliphant, I heart you. He's at 4. Got it? Graham salutes. Yes, sir. They walk away. And now the final picture of this puzzle, the final story that he encounters. Daisy comes up to get her key. She reaches for it. Rod pulls it away. He says, what do you think? Is today the day you don't lose your key? Daisy says, I want you to think about how boring your life would be without me, Rod. Rod smirks. He's like, sound checks at 3. So we're really getting a sense of how Rod sees all these different members of the band. Who's responsible? Who's not? Who's hopeless? And his sound check time directly reflects all of those things. It's so good. But also the running joke is like all of these continuing stories and the vibes that are walking straight up to him that he has to receive. And his reaction of, I'm just trying to keep all this together. I'm trying to get you your keys and get you on stage. Um, those are some of the many things happening here in this scene. And it does make me think, boy, it's been a minute since I've seen a hotel room key. Since we've gone electronic, it's a different process. But it does make me feel like, how many keys must these people lose? Were they losing back in the day? And how many keys did they have as a spare for each room? I mean, how do you even, yeah. Must have been a lot. Now they just like program it differently and whoop, swipe the card. You have however many cards you have, you're good. But with a real key, it's kind of cool to have a real key though, I'll tell you that. Anyway, okay. So Rod smirks. He's like, sound checks at 3. He walks away. Everybody else had walked away from him. He walks away from Daisy. Daisy says, I know about Daisy standard time. Simone, we can see Simone coming up behind Daisy. She's coming up with outstretched arms. She's like, I've used that trick myself. And Daisy gasps. She opens up her arms and they give each other a big hug. They're like, you made it. Simone says, no, you made it. I've been gigging here all week. Daisy says, thanks for saying yes. Simone thanks her for asking, asks if Daisy's hungry, and they agree to take it to a new location. So our next scene is going to be with these two characters at a central table in a restaurant. Simone, like what an evolution she's had here. You can feel that she's sort of embraced who she is more and more as the series has gone on. And here she is. She's at this table. She's in her, I guess it's leopard print outfit, and she's got her natural hair. We haven't had a lot of moments to be able to see that so far. Daisy is in a bright printed coat, big coat. They sure stand out. If you actually look at what all the people around them at the tables are wearing, it's like these, that these two people are rock stars / disco stars. Daisy's like, well, it'll just be just like the old days, just two chicks singing rock and roll. Sounds like, there's going to be 50,000 people out there, Daisy. It's not like the old days. Daisy laughs. Little joke, little rock and roll star joke. Nobody calls it a rock and roll star. They call it a rock star. That's what I mean. So Daisy takes a pill out. It's so natural to her. She just here she is. She's in the restaurant in the middle of a conversation with Simone. She just takes out this little pill purse. She just takes a pill out of it and washes it down with some champagne. It's like breathing to her. And she says, "So what's this I'm hearing about attic records?" Simone says, "Yeah, that's not going to happen anymore." So if you remember, now let's catch up on Simone. At a montage at the end of the last episode, we saw Simone walking out on Bernie. She had her suitcase. She was leaving the apartment. Bernie looked sad. Simone looked sad. She had decided she was going to take the deal over Bernie. And she has had buyer's remorse. She's had contract signers remorse, signatories remorse. She decided against the first choice and she's gone with Bernie and gone against Attic Records, and that happened off screen. Makes you wonder. I mean, so it makes you wonder why show us that little bit in the montage where she makes the first decision. And on paper, you could say it's not necessary because here we are at the new answer. But I do think it gives us something to talk about that she first said yes to the contract and then said no to the contract, because there's a lot to why she might have done that. So I do actually think it's worth that she makes one choice and then backpedals and thinks it through again. And she's going to explain the new decision making process here. Um, but I think the fact that she signed it to begin with, or that she was leaving Bernie at the end of the last episode to begin with, speaks to how strong a pull it is to be a breath away from a life dream, from a professional goal. Um, it's it's a hard thing to decide between, and it makes you understand that she had a big decision on her hands, a lot of compelling factors involved here, and she's now sort of seen both sides of this equation. So Daisy's asking about it. Simone says it's not going to happen anymore. Daisy's like, "What are you talking about? Teddy said everything." Simone just kind of nods a very long nod. She says, "I turned them down." Daisy says, "After all that shit you gave me in Greece, I thought this is what you wanted." It's an interesting thing to say to Simone. It's a bold way to address, like, she's not trying to talk about Greece. Greece, I guess there's enough water under that bridge for them that Daisy can mention Greece and it doesn't start a fight for them. And it's interesting to see Simone's reaction to this because on the one hand, Daisy can't possibly understand all the many factors that are involved for Simone that are not involved for her. And Simone is deeply aware of the factors that are involved for her that Daisy doesn't have to deal with. And, Daisy has not necessarily had things easy, but there have been opportunities that have come her way that Simone doesn't really qualify for in the world that she's living in. So it's for Daisy to be like, "You said to me back in Greece," and it's you could go one way or the other when you're writing a scene like this or when you're playing a scene like this. Simone keeps it cool. She keeps it patient. She says, "I turned them down." She says, "It's just that I didn't want," and to Daisy's credit, she's really trying to understand. Daisy's got her listening face on. "Explain to me what's happening here." Simone says, "I never understood why my first album flopped. I used to think it was the song selection, or maybe I was trying too many things, finding my voice. But I knew my voice. I've always known my voice. I was just afraid to use it. And in New York, I stopped being afraid and people went nuts." I mean, but that's what Attic was saying no to. Sure, they were saying yes to all the other stuff, but they were saying no to the things that mattered. My family, my heart. So Simone gets a monologue here. We get moments of looking at Daisy's reaction. Daisy is proud. To me, I read that Daisy is proud of her friend. She's smiling at times. She's not exactly happy for Simone because what a big sacrifice to have to make for Bernie. But, I think that Simone's logic is sound. She's explaining herself, and Daisy seems to be supportive of her friend. Um, but I do Simone gets a chance to explain to us what this whole thing actually meant to her, and we know what a tough pill it must have been to swallow for her to have to decline a record contract. She's been wanting it. She's seen what's happened for Daisy getting it. She was basically insulted that Daisy was like, yeah, cover of Rolling Stone, whatever, that's not me. Um, and here's Simone turning down a professional opportunity. So it's maybe she also now can see a little bit more of Daisy's explanation and Daisy's situation as well. Daisy says Simone Jackson turned down Attic Records, and you did it for love, you sentimental bitch. She says it with a smile because she delivers these kinds of things with a smile, and she means it in a good-natured way. And Simone, with a smile, says, "Yes, I did." And I see her here as proud, as happy. She made the right decision for her. I think there's comfort in feeling that you made the right decision. So she's got that. And whatever Simone's got here, Daisy doesn't have. And it's, one of those times in the show where it's sort of the reverse roles, like, I want what you have. And Simone so often felt that way for the things Daisy has. But here, Daisy maybe kind of feels that way about what Simone's got. Daisy starts to cry a bit. Her hands are all folded. She's just trying to keep it together. She does a big inhale, and Simone says, "Are you okay?" Daisy very quietly admits, "I don't think I can do this anymore with him." Simone considers that, and she says, "If it hurts you this much, maybe you shouldn't." She says it in a very straightforward way. The way this is shot, I think maybe it was shot at maybe slightly too low an angle because it almost looks like Simone has a little bit of a smile on her face, which doesn't feel appropriate to me for the situation. But I think it's the angle that her face was shot at. Um, because I think when I look at Simone's eyes, they're very straightforward. They're like, I see what you're saying. I can see it, it's basically the same thing Daisy was saying in Greece, but this is different. Daisy has been trying to make it work. She's on this tour. She isn't running from the situation. She isn't shirking her responsibilities. She's here doing her responsibilities in a ton of pain. And, by putting herself back in this situation, things haven't gotten easier or better for her. And, I think Simone's able to say, okay, okay. Like, yes, it was the same thing she was saying then, but Daisy has been trying to approach this from a different angle, and it's not working. So what else can Simone say? Daisy's face is just scrunching up because she's just trying not to cry. She is crying a bit. We're going to go back to Soldier Field. The crowd is cheering. Daisy is dancing in her white dress to the opening guitar part of Kill You to Try. We're going to see Billy walking back on stage. I guess this is from when he was just taking a drink or whatever he was doing back there. He goes back up to his mic. He starts singing, "I've been an angel all summer long. I swear I've done nothing wrong." Yeah. I want all your tears to be gone. Come on home. I gotta tell you, Sam Claflin. Sam Claflin kills me in this episode. Timothy Olyphant and Sam Claflin in one show is all I'm saying. And then this episode with these two, I don't even know what to do. They have very different energy from each other in this episode. But my goodness, Billy Dunn. He's got this bend in his knee. I think Sam Claflin has like slightly bowed legs, if that's the term, if that's the right description of how his body is shaped. So it is interesting when he sort of bends his legs, they kind of go out to the side a little bit. But he's kind of got a laid back head and he's got a little bit of grit in his voice. And he's starting to do a sexy thing, but he's going to ramp this up over the course of the show. Just you wait, my friends. Daisy's watching him, because of course she is. Billy's singing Cape Cod, Santa Fe, Little Houseboat, Marina Del Rey. Yeah. We're so close to getting so far away. Come on home. We're going to go back to the hotel. It's 12:55 p.m., so some time has elapsed here. Camilla comes out of her hotel room. Her arms are crossed. What was she so angry about in the lobby when they were getting that key? Well, we're about to hash it out. Billy comes out of the room after her and they go into the hallway, which I just like, is this how rock stars were doing it? Because if you're a publicist for these people, what a nightmare. Don't have don't have arguments out in the open unless you want this stuff to be reported. If you honestly, like if you were a member of the media and this is how people are doing it, get book up all the rooms on the floor so nobody else but your outlet can stay there and just put your ear to the door. Put your dictaphone to the door and capture all the sound that comes from the hallway or the adjoining rooms or the balconies for that matter. Um, anyway, that's my thoughts. Okay, so Camilla comes out of her room. Billy comes out after her. They're standing in the hallway. Billy's like, where's this even coming from? Camilla gets in his face. Her eyes are red. She's been crying. She's like, I saw you in the kitchen this morning. The way that you were looking at each other. Her voice is raising as she goes through this. He sort of takes her and moves her a bit away from the door because he'd rather maybe a member of the media in an adjoining room hears her than their daughter, who's in the room they just left. So he's sort of moving her away. But the other function that this has is that it allows them to be in the hallway when Daisy comes through the hallway. Because if they had this argument in their room or on their balcony, Daisy wouldn't be able to awkwardly interrupt this savory moment that they're having. So anyway, Billy's very quiet here. He says, Kimmy, we talked about this, all right? You said it yourself. It's what people want to see. It's an act. You know that. Mm, that doesn't work, Billy. Here's why. Nobody was in the room except the two of you. Who's the act for? It does it still qualify as an act if nobody's there to witness it? If a tree falls in the forest, does it make a noise? Billy, it doesn't work, but you tried. Okay. Um, well, can't even grace that with the answer it actually deserves. She's basically pleading to him. She says, just tell me the truth, okay? We're both adults. We've both done things. Now, first of all, um, again, Camilla's not going to be like, who is it an act for when you were in private? She should have just said that. She doesn't. She's like, can you please be honest? Like, we've both done things. And now this catches him off guard. He starts to respond to what he thought she was going to say. He's like, there's nothing. Wait, what do you mean both? Wait, both? Camilla says, you know exactly what it means. He's probably circling back in his brain to that night where there was some Chinese takeout on the table and one very anxious Billy waiting until after midnight for Camilla to come home. So she's got some bitterness in her face when she says, you know exactly what it means. And he says, actually, I don't think I do. What things? Camilla's like, how long has it been going on? Like, they're having two different conversations now. She's actually given him room to have two different conversations. But on the other hand, she did in fact cheat on him. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that wasn't a great way to handle it. And he's been doing all kinds of shady things. So here they are having sort of two different fights. They both want two different things out of this conversation at this particular moment in time. How long has it been going on? She says. He says, there's nothing going on. He growls a bit here and then he shouts, Jesus Christ. His voice is raising. She steps back. He looks down. He can't even look at her at this point. It's like, because she's just going to wait until some sort of truth comes out of his mouth. I'll just stand right here until I get something honest out of you. Billy says, all right, look, I kissed her once, ages ago, okay? For like a second. But that's it. I swear to God, it meant nothing. Camilla points to his chest. She says, tell me you don't love her. He freezes. He can't. Camilla whispers. She says, tell me you don't love her. He can't respond. She raises his face to look at her so that is more likely to make eye contact. She says, you can't even say it, can you? An elevator dings. Daisy comes off on their floor and she walks briskly down the hallway in the coat with the world's biggest sleeves, and she's doing this again, and she's nobody can't notice her here. Like, if you're in this hallway, you have to notice Daisy walking through the hallway with the sleeves. She Here they are. It's an awkward scene that she's encountered. She sees them, she slows down, she stops, maybe, I don't know, what, 10 feet away from them. Camilla kind of chuckles because, boy, is this awkward. She turns away. Daisy's like, sorry. Camilla says, no, stay. Her tears just soaking her face. Billy's not facing Daisy. She can't even see his face. I was like, I'm done here. She walks away. She leaves, the door slams. Billy's hands are on his hips. He's still not looking at Daisy. Daisy is still as can be. This is freeze of the fight, flight, or freeze options. Billy still not looking at her. He's like, she thinks we're having an affair. She thinks I'm in love with you. Daisy says, and what did you say? Billy says, well, I told her the truth, Daisy, that nothing happened and nothing ever will. Rorschach test. How do you think this line read sounds? Like, what did you take away from Billy saying it the way that he said it? Nothing happened and nothing ever will. He looks at Daisy at that point. I mean, he's certainly not happy about it. But my read on this, and I absolutely accept probably dozens of other responses, I think my read on this is nothing happened and nothing ever will. I think he's disappointed that nothing ever will. I think I think he's lost it all in this situation. I think he not only is saying nothing ever will because I have to be with Camilla. So there's disappointment on all fronts because Camilla doesn't really want anything to do with him right now. And he's saying he can't have anything to do with Daisy. So is he losing everything in this moment? He shouts out an F-bomb and he walks off after Camilla. And Daisy just stands there motionless, and her face is rigid. I mean, this scene, it's when one thing I wanted to look back at with this is that, when Billy's trying to downplay the kiss, he's like, I kissed her once ages ago for a second. It meant nothing. It was fine. That was it. That was all. Yeah, it's true. From a physical standpoint, they haven't done more than kiss. For me, that would still be a problem. And I totally appreciate that people stand in all different places on that. For me, just a kiss would still be a problem. But that's not really all this was. From a physical standpoint, yes. But Camilla asks the right question. It's like, okay, let's say I were okay with the kiss just being a kiss. For her to say, tell me you don't love her. And he can't respond to her. That to me is a problem that's existed for a very long time that Camilla has known about. And I don't know. I can't imagine being Camilla here. I'm putting up with that for as long as she did. There's lots of reasons for her to. I mean, they have Julia together. This is the life that she wanted. But she has known her husband is in love with another woman for a really long time. Um, and now she's just saying the words that will eventually not be able to be unsaid, right? Like, if he responds to her, he can never take it back. And there is only one answer. He can't say no because everybody knows it's a lie. So it's really tricky, but I think Camilla is able to sort of get right to the heart of it and say, like, I know you're sitting here trying to downplay things, but the honest truth of this is that you feel a thing for Daisy that I don't want you to be feeling, but you feel it, and that's the issue. So, okay. So that scene concludes with Daisy standing alone in the hallway, tears rolling down her face, Billy shouting again from behind a slammed door. Let's go back on stage. Because that was a flashback moment. Now let's go back on stage. Daisy is snorting cocaine from behind some equipment. We hear Billy on stage saying, "How you feeling, Chicago?" The crowd is cheering. He says, "I'd tell you how I was feeling, but I always end up saying the wrong thing." Kind of like the last scene. The camera is going to follow Daisy back on stage. And then there's really cool movement in the camera on this stage in this show, because the camera follows Daisy back on stage and then whoop shoots off and looks at Graham, who is dazed. And we're going to hear the song. Well, Billy says, "This is no words." Graham starts playing guitar. He looks depressed. Karen's watching him. She's sad. Graham's not looking back. What's happening for these two, you might be asking. All right, let's flash back to earlier in the day, or maybe still the day before. In the hotel, we see Karen and Graham get on the elevator. Graham pushes the button. He puts an arm around her waist. He kisses her head. He's feeling all fatherly in this moment. She closes her eyes because how long can this go on? She has to tell him. He looks at her, can see that something's happening, that she wants to say something. She sighs and he steps back, like giving her some space to say the things she needs to say. Graham says, "Hey, you okay? Maybe you should see a doctor." He smiles with a bit of a puppy dog look. Oh, and it just sort of crushes Karen. He's like, "Right, be on the safe side." Karen doesn't even know what to tell this guy right now. She's like, "Graham, I took care of it." Graham is just for a moment confused, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" But we see this flash of hurt through his eyes and she catches it. And where do you go from there? She has, tears are welling up in Karen. She can't bring herself to explain it any more clear than she just did. She looks forward. She looks away from him, and his mouth drops open. He's reeling. He pushes the button of whatever floor they're next to. He gets off the elevator, and she wants to cry. She's just standing in this elevator, looking like, well, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going to happen here, but this is, I mean, she's hurting, and she's hurting for him hurting, and it's a lot. We go back to to Soldier Field performance. On stage, Karen's playing her keyboard in a sort of the backdrop is lit blue. It's this blue light behind her. It's a beautiful, slow song. She's lost in thought. Her eyes are closed. She's thinking about what happened today, probably the scene we just saw. And Billy and Daisy are singing, "There ain't no words to the song I'm here to sing. What can you say?" And again, that's kind of where we left off in that scene where there were a number of times where you could have inserted a line there or more explanation or more exposition, and it was so much easier for Karen just to let it hang and for Graham to just realize on his own. We get a side shot of Karen and the camera comes around her so we can see Graham on the other side of the stage. "No, there ain't no words to the song I came to sing." Now we rack focus back to Graham. He's not looking at her, so she keeps looking at him. He's not looking at her. He's singing with his eyes closed, or his eyes are closed and he's playing guitar, I should say. "I just don't know the words, babe, to tell you what I mean." Perfectly matched with the scene we just saw. Karen's still looking at him, willing him to look back. "And I'm at the end of my mind trying to do the right thing." That's what Daisy and Billy are singing. And then as the notes of this song close, Daisy looks over at Karen and she sees the energy coming off of her. And it's kind of interesting the way it looks like it's raining in this shot behind Daisy. And then Daisy walks over to Karen as Billy watches this happen. Maybe it doesn't happen a ton on stage. Daisy sits down next to Karen, puts her head on Karen's shoulder. Gotta be hard to play keyboard with one hand, but Karen's a pro. Karen puts an arm around Daisy and she smiles a little bit. She needed a little love. I love this moment. I love, love, love that moment. This, here we are, the women on stage, and you need me, I need you, and but specifically, you look like you're hurting. And Daisy just goes over. It feels like a generous moment to me. Although Daisy's struggling, Daisy's having some hard things going on. But I think Daisy already knows this is her last performance. And so I think that she's trying to, in the way that Daisy can, give little gifts, have little moments of appreciation with the people on stage with her. And I think this is a big moment with her and Karen. Okay, so the song ends. Well, I actually should say the camera is going to pull back from watching Daisy and Karen. It's going to go through Eddie to past Graham. His eyes are still closed. The song ends, and Daisy looks over at Karen, and they hug as the crowd cheers. All right, what's been happening for Daisy? Daisy's had a day. And the first thing we need to see happen at 1:31 p.m. Daisy is playing piano in an empty restaurant in the hotel. I guess technically it's not the first thing that we're seeing from her, but it's the next thing. So she's playing this piano in this empty restaurant. She's playing Type of Guy, which is about Billy. It's a really a beautiful room. It's set, the color palette here. We got like the black, the white, the blue. There's all this great light coming in from the windows. She's singing affectations put you in your place, painting leaves you empty-eyed. And I'm that same type of guy. We see Camilla walking in from the side of the room. Daisy hasn't actually seen her yet, but Camilla's walking in, arms folded. Daisy senses Camilla that Camilla is there. She stops playing. She looks up, but not at Camilla. She just senses that Camilla is there. Daisy says, he's telling you the truth, And she looks at Camilla and she says, there's nothing going on between us. Not like that, anyway. Camilla says, so what's it like then? Daisy says, I don't know. You're his first love. You're the mother of his child. Camilla says, so what? So he's with me out of some sort of obligation? Is that what it is? Daisy says, that's not what I'm saying. Camilla says, no, actually, it's exactly what you're saying. That he's not with me because he loves me. He's with me because he's Billy effing done and it's the right thing to do. Daisy says, he loves you, Camilla. He's yours. He'll always be yours. You are who he'll choose every effing time. And Camilla's looking down for this explanation. We get to this part and she's like, Camilla squints. She's like, you're what? He says, I just have to live with that. Camilla resents this. She's like, you two are so much alike. You know that? You think you're these two lost souls just fumbling your way through the dark, but you deserve each other. Daisy's watching this. Her mouth kind of twists a little bit. She's waiting for the blow to hit her. Camilla turns and leaves. Daisy just looks away and sighs. And this scene right here is where there's a pretty big divergence in how things are expressed between the book and the show. And for me, I need Camilla to have this energy here. I need her to be able to say, oh, come off it. Like, you're telling me that he's just with me out of duty, responsibility, obligation, that he loves you, but he has to be with me. How would you feel if you were Camilla and you knew that, like, that's your assessment of this situation? And nobody seems to be really able to tell you differently. I mean, for me, if that's the assessment, you have a hard call to make in this moment. And I I needed to hear Camilla saying this, being very blunt about it. Um, and that she is kind of like, Daisy, you have some responsibility here. Like, you don't get to be off the hook like that. It's not just poor me. Like, what are you doing? But she leaves. She walks out of the room. Again, I'm going to unpack this particular part in a lot of detail when I compare the show and the book because I have thoughts. But I do prefer where the show takes it overall. Okay. We're going to see what's happening with Billy right now. He's strumming the guitar in his hotel room. He stops. It's not working. He's trying to calm himself down. He's trying to distract himself, and it's not working. He's angry. He smashes his guitar. Rawr! Rawr. He sighs. He's like huffing. He hears a knock on the door. Maybe it's Camilla. He runs to it. It's Eddie. Great. He sees Eddie at the door. It's easily the last person he wants to see. And he hits the door and he curses, and Eddie comes in and he throws the door closed. Eddie surveys the room, sees a smashed guitar. He's like, geez, what happened in here? Billy says, what do you want, Eddie? He says, figured I should do it like a man, tell you in person. Billy looks at him like, here we go. Eddie says, I'm quitting the band. Billy chuckles a bit. Eddie doubles down and he's like, I'm serious. I'm done with this shit. Billy sits. He's like, what shit? He's like, okay, all right. Let me get comfortable for this. This should be interesting. You can feel he doesn't even take this seriously from it. Eddie can't be any more serious than he's being right now. And Billy doesn't really take him that seriously. Eddie's like, we're gonna get a monologue from Eddie here. Eddie says, you don't even know, do you, how hard it's been for me? Right from the start, the Dunn Brothers days, as if Warren and I didn't even exist. But hey, look, I'm a team player, man. I even gave up my goddamn guitar for you. I didn't want to play bass, but we needed a bass player. So I played bass. And for what? To hear on the master that you re-recorded my parts? You think I wouldn't notice? But that shit in Pittsburgh, that was the last straw. I have one moment on stage and you steal it from me at our hometown show. He was like, my grandmother was at that show, you effing piece of shit. And he says it with disgust. Okay, some thoughts on this monologue. First of all, how Billy is receiving it. Billy is sitting there, and it's hard to read him for a minute. You could think almost maybe is this man listening? Um, but he's kind of defiantly sitting there, maybe listening. Like there's something about that energy that's like, I'm just waiting for the moment when I get to wreck you. Um, he he's probably sitting there thinking about Camilla and Daisy. And Eddie's just a pest in this room right now. And like all of these problems Eddie's got, Billy doesn't care. Uh, and that's got to make Eddie even more steamed. Um, the other thing is like one of the things I see a lot with Billy's hair in this episode is there's a lot of like hair hanging down in his face. He's he's just looking more reckless, looking more frazzled, looking more like unkempt and not put together. And this is the Billy that's encountering Eddie. And so Eddie, I will also say one other thing about the delivery of this monologue. I love Josh Whitehouse's delivery of this whole monologue, except the word hometown. I don't know. I'm curious if this landed right for everybody. The growl he gets out here doesn't feel rooted in what he's really feeling to me. So that part always kind of like hits me a little weird. But I love the rest of this. And I think it's the stuff that Eddie's been needing to say. I think this is an episode where characters get to say the things they needed to say. Because Eddie needed to say this to Eddie needed to say this a really long time ago, but instead he stayed in this band and the resentment has grown. Eddie needed to say this to Billy. And in return, Warren needs to say the stuff that he's going to say to Eddie later. But here we are thinking, you make a good point, Eddie. Poor guy. And then Billy comes in with his response. So Eddie says, when the tour ends, that's it, man. I'm out. Billy, what's Billy going to say? Huh? What's going on in his head? Billy says, you know what I think? He stands up because he has been sitting for all of this. He had let Eddie be tall, like standing higher than him, taller stature, hierarchy, whatever. Billy stands up again, like, okay, you had your moment. He says, I think you like feeling slighted. I think you need to feel slighted because otherwise, Eddie, you'd have to deliver and you can't deliver. You're just not good enough. Um, Eddie must be boiling. um, and maybe there's truth to this, like when Eddie tried out to be the new Billy all those episodes ago, when they kind of ran through a whole bunch of possible new lead singers and none of them were really all that good. And then Eddie tried, he would have been the default. He would have been the person that was now the new lead singer of the Six. I think that would have happened. But it's not like the Six was like, whoa, wait, you can do this? Like they were not effusive with their praise. They're like, oh, all right. It didn't knock their socks off. I think if Rod were describing Eddie, he wouldn't say like he wouldn't compare him to Mick Jagger like Rod did with Billy the first time he saw Billy. So I think there's some truth to Billy's assessment here. Like, you aren't a front man. Like you're not the best guitar player in the band. Like you are a utility player who has his utility over here at bass. Um, and so Eddie wants a lot, but perhaps doesn't have the charisma or the stage presence or the talent of Billy. And maybe he knows that. I think future interview Eddie kind of has an inkling of that, but will never say it. But this stuff has just been building in Eddie for so long. He really did need to have this conversation with Billy a long time ago, but Billy wouldn't have listened to it then either. And I think sometimes we we aren't ready to have those. Sometimes we aren't ready to have those conversations. Like as much as you want to be able to say it, you have to be ready to be on the receiving end of whatever's about to come your way. And Eddie was never ready until right now, because this moment happened with his grandma in Pittsburgh and he's done. It doesn't really matter what the outcome of this is if he's willing to walk away. So, yeah. All right. So, Billy just said, like, you're not good enough. And Eddie laughs. He says, if you only knew, because now he wants to hurt Billy. Billy's like, yeah, what don't I know? Eddie leans in. He says, use your imagination. Billy looks at him and he knows what this means. He's seen the clues. He had an awkward Chinese takeout dinner alone. Camilla won't talk about something that she's done. And now here's Eddie making a weird reference. So Billy puts two and two together here. He gets four. He says, I'm going to effing kill you. He punches Eddie. Eddie falls back onto the piano. He touches his face. He pushes Billy back onto the sofa. He shouts, this is your fault, man. That's Eddie saying that. It feels like such a such a little kid way to end this argument, to be honest, from Eddie. Is you did this. Did he? I mean, yeah. Billy is Billy. He's been a jerk. And you, my friend Eddie, have let him walk all over you for your whole young adulthood. And that's on you. So it's kind of like him leaving the room this way feels exactly the way Eddie would leave the room. Eddie leaves, he slams the door. Really cool choice from Sam Claflin. I don't know how he didn't pull a hamstring. He You can see a big piece of the broken, smashed guitar is on the coffee table. And he doesn't just kick the guitar or stomp on the guitar. The guitar is on a coffee table. He raises up his leg and he stomps down on the guitar on the coffee table. And he definitely breaks more of the guitar. He might also break the table. I don't know how many times they had to do this. Like, you got to limber up before you make a choice like that. You've got to make sure that you're warm, that you've, done a little jogging, that you've stretched. I mean, my goodness. I can't even, I don't think I've ever made a motion like that with such force. Anyway, so kicks the guitar. Okay, let's go back to the concert. We're going to see a close up of Eddie looking pissed off with his black eye. And now we know how he got it. He's playing bass on Look Me in the Eye. But can ya? Look Me in the Eye with that big black eye perfectly queued up here. We get dirty looks between Eddie and Billy. Billy smiles into the crowd. Daisy and Billy are singing Turn Around, Look Me in the Eye. We see Billy first, and then we see Daisy over Billy's shoulder, but sort of like, not that he's looking directly at her, but the camera's sort of over his shoulder looking back at Daisy. She looks at him, they're saying, turn around, look me in the eye. We see just Daisy turn around, say it to my face, and she's shaking defiantly. She turns around to walk and clap it off. She's feeling the energy of the song. And where does that come from, you might ask? Well, 2:44 p.m. Daisy was in her hotel room. She was drinking some champagne out of the bottle in her big coat because she's had a day. She's basically said to Mona, I can't do this anymore. She seems to be making a decision to leave the band. She just had this encounter with Billy and Camilla in the hallway. Then she just had this encounter with Camilla. And so now she's drinking champagne out of the bottle in her big coat. She looks in the mirror. She slams the bottle down. She goes into her bag looking for something, probably pills, but she sees the letter from her mom. Of course, that's exactly what she needs to add to this soup of things that have happened today. She opens up the letter finally. It's been episodes. This has been Chekhov's envelope from her mom for like multiple episodes now. And it's pictures. There's a picture of young Daisy and her mom in matching outfits, young Daisy at a piano, a school photo of young Daisy / Margaret for all of these things. Her breathing is a bit labored. And I just, the feeling of anxiety that must be washing over her in this moment, because I think she knows she's about to do a stupid thing, which in any normal, healthy relation, well, normal, and in any healthy relationship, it wouldn't be stupid to call your mom at this point. And in her case, this is not the nice gesture that it appears to be. And her reacting to the gesture is only going to yield pain. And she's going to react to the gesture and it's going to yield pain. And this is the cycle. She snorts some cocaine. She dials the phone because here we go. We get Jean's voice, her mom's voice on the other side. She says, hello. Hello. Daisy's just staring. Daisy wipes a tear from her eye. She says, hi, Mom. Her mom says, Margaret, is that really you? Daisy says, it's really me. Jean says, I was hoping you would call. You got my letter then? The pictures I sent? Daisy wipes away more tears. She exhales. She gives this little smile. And for me, it reads like a smile of defeat. It's like, I know this was the worst thing that I could have done, picking up this phone and calling you. Here we go. That was the smile that I read there. Daisy says, Malibu Mondays. I still don't know how you manage to find matching outfits every week. Jean's voice says, and always red ones to match our hair. She had a different red matching outfit every single week. This woman. We are going to see Jean here now on the phone. It's not just going to be her voice. We actually see her, and I like the choice that we see her because it makes an upcoming line much more impactful to see her deliver it. So she's got kind of almost a proud smile, remembering these matching outfits, which is ultimately her accomplishment, that she always made her daughter look just like a mini her. Daisy says, why did you send these to me? Jean's voice says, I wanted to hear your voice. And with a softness, she says, I missed you. Daisy closes her eyes to brace herself. You just know that, yes, when we saw youngest Daisy in the first episode, we saw a mom who was very threatening, who was crouched down over her daughter, and her daughter was actually scared. But I imagine this happened a lot too, where Jean said something that started sounding soft and nice and then went for the kill. And I think Daisy, little Margaret, got very used to, when I get complimented, I am then going to be pummeled with words, or with whatever, but with words at least. And here it is. Her mom just said, I missed you. Daisy's eyes are closed. And then we see Jean, and we see her switch tone and go hardcore. She says, and now here you are on the TV news and in all those magazines making up stories, telling people you're an orphan. You're not an orphan, you selfish little shit. I'm your mother. How about a little credit for once? The way this woman just went from, I missed you, to that in seconds. Okay, first of all, the actress's name here, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right. Nicole Liberté, um, to deliver this tonal shift so seamlessly. And I've been on the receiving end of a switch like this before, and it feels really accurate to me the way this was delivered. Um, so perfectly executed, perfectly written. To get from I missed you to selfish little shit in 20 seconds, 10 seconds or less is actually a really big adjustment to make. And this is a woman who not only is doing it today, but has probably done it a million times with her daughter. And Daisy knew it was coming. She braced herself for it with the closed eyes. The second her mom's voice gets harder, before she's even called her any names, Daisy's eyes already look pained. Like, I knew this was going to happen. I knew this. Why do I do this every time? Like, why do I always pick up the phone? Um, just the tone without even the words. And you can see the reaction that Riley Keough exudes. It's so good, this scene. And the whole thing is a phone call. I don't even know if they were talking to each other. They probably weren't. I mean, I just, my goodness. So she says, how about a little credit for once? Daisy pulls the phone away from her ear for a second. She's like, of course, this is what I'm getting. Daisy says, she laughs a little bit. She says, Mom, sometimes I think that there are a million strangers out there who love me more than you ever did. And she delivers that whole thing with a smile because Daisy smiles through pain. That is what she does. Jean's voice says, well, maybe, but they don't really know you now, do they? Mother. Daisy is still smiling through pain, but now she gets angry. She says, goodbye, Mother. Next time you want to hear my voice, why don't you try the effing radio? And she slams the phone down. This line from Jean, well, maybe, but they don't really know you now, do they? Oh, all these strangers love me. They don't know the real you. It it carries with it the same level of insult that I felt from Daisy approaching her mom when her mom came into her room uninvited, took back some of her records, and started looking through Daisy's songbook and looking through her lyrics. And Daisy is angry, but she says, how are they? And her mom says, you're such a pretty girl, Margaret. Way back when, if you remember that. That response and this response feel similar to me. Like, look at all these people who love me. She says, they don't know you. You are the meanest person in the entire world. Um, ah, I feel this scene. It is brutal. Very well acted, extremely well written. And as far as I can tell, in my personal life experience, this is accurate. Like, there are people who talk this way and there are people who receive it. And there is a pattern that develops around both of those things, around giving it and receiving it. And it sucks. Okay. I don't even want to talk about that anymore. I'm so angry. Okay. Okay, so let's go to on stage, the guitar section of Let Me Down Easy, which Daisy did not just do with her mom, as her mom well earned. We're going to get a close up on Daisy with her very thick eye makeup. Daisy is doing her standing in place stance, which is the one knee bend, other knee bend, but you can see just, from like here up. You can still tell she's doing that. We're going to see Billy over, he's over with Graham. Billy's got some hip rotation going here. My goodness, we're seeing some moves from Sam Claflin that he just busted out for episode 10. Billy comes over and he sings in Daisy's mic. Correct me if I'm wrong. he's never done this, right? It's always been Daisy going to his mic, right? Because it feels really distinct in this episode to me, and I've been racking my brain trying to think if I've ever made a note to myself that he went to her mic. I think it's just this one, but boy, he is spending all his time on her mic in this concert. So Billy and Daisy are singing, "If you're gonna let me down easy. If you're gonna let me down." He's looking into her eyes. She's singing through a smile, but we know she smiles through pain. Now they're both looking into each other's eyes. They're both smiling. They're mirroring each other. They're so connected here. Daisy's head's bopping a little bit side to side. "If you're gonna let me down easy." They start singing. Billy puts his face, the side of his face, up against the side of Daisy's face. I don't even know how they sing like that. Um, "Don't you go and tell me that you love me while you're leaving if you're going to leave me now." Oh, resonance for this episode, isn't there? Daisy, she's smiling. Billy's thrown his head back, and then he goes right back to their heads being glued together. "If you're going to let me down easy. If you're going to let me down." I mean, these two have never been more connected on stage. They find so many ways to do it. I don't know how much of this was scripted and how much of this was just found by the actors, but um, we've seen them be connected before in all kinds of different ways. I mean, all of the ways they're doing it here feel totally different from like when they performed Aurora at the SNL uh, for SNL, which felt a little bit more like support, dependence. I need help from you. This feels like all different things, and they're just finding all these new dimensions to showing us their connection on stage. Okay, we need to check out what's happening with Graham and Karen again. So 3:30 p.m., we get somebody sitting on the bleachers. We pan up. It's Graham. We hear footsteps approaching, and that's Karen. And they right now they're at the stadium. They're at Soldier Field, and it's the stage is being set. The roadies are all out, and they're doing their thing, but they're sitting pretty far back in the stands right now. Karen, she comes up next to him. She sits down. This at first it's shot from behind them so that we can see what's happening on Soldier Field. But now we look at them directly. Karen very quietly says, "I tried to tell you." He says, "You said you weren't sure." Karen says, "No, I said that I didn't want this. Not now, not ever." She looks at him. She says, "You just didn't want to hear it." We hear Rhodey's doing, mic checks. Graham shakes his head. He says, "I could have come with you, held your hand." Karen's like, "Really, Graham? You really think that would have helped with that look on your face? You really think that would have made things easier?" Graham says, "Well, relationships aren't supposed to be easy, Karen. They're supposed to be honest." He gives a really long pause. She stands and he says, "You're going to be alone forever. You know that, right?" He says it. He's got a bit of anger. He's got a bit of bitterness. That hurts Karen, and she walks away. He's got anger and bitterness. He's also having an honest reaction because he's not saying a thing that he thinks is untrue to hurt her. Like, he thinks it's true. Um, in a similar way to the stuff that Billy was saying to Eddie earlier, there was a ring of truth to it. Karen's saying, "I choose being alone." Like, I would rather be alone than have a kid. I would rather be alone than, like she's moving in this direction and he's calling it out. He's saying it and he is hurting her and he knows he is. And I think in this moment he wants to hurt her the way that he's hurting. Um, but it's not like he pulled this out of thin air. Um, and that's probably what makes it sting even more. Let's go back to the concert. We're going to get more fun to miss. We start on Karen. She's looking sad. We know why, because we just saw it. She looks at Graham. Graham is finally looking back. And Graham finally looking back feels a little bit like a moment of, I don't know that I'm going to say regret. I don't know that I'm going to say missing Karen or I think he was feeling depressed and alone. And somehow Graham's going through a journey here on stage where he starts, "I can't even look at her," to "I must look at her. We can make this work." Like, I think him looking back at her, is Graham starting to make a personal choice that he will look at her. Um, it isn't lost on me. I think it's significant. Daisy is saying, last time I had a lick was when I heard church bells a chiming. You'd be just as fun as a jammed up gun. We're going to see, oh my goodness, this song, guys. How many times have you replayed this? Because I can tell you, I have replayed it a lot. We're going to see a close up, well, pretty close up, medium, slightly less than medium shot of Daisy at her mic. Billy slinks in from this side, big grin on his face, super seductive, giving her one of these. She gives him a bit of a side eye and a smile. Just as fun as a jammed up gun, she's saying, and here he is coming in from this side, going back to her mic again. She's singing another shot at just the wrong place and time. Billy comes in really close to her mic. I mean, he's not just singing at her mic, he's right up against her mic. And he gets under it like he's going to try to kiss her. Like if he's too tall and he needs to stoop down and like lean up to kiss her, like to make sure he's in her eye line. That's what it looks like he's about to do here, but he's not, but it suggests that to me. It's ridiculous. He's going more fun to miss. Daisy's response, then to be with. Billy saying more fun to kiss. And now this is when he starts making the kiss, the sound long. He more fun to kiss. Oh my God. Daisy, then to be with. We get really close up, and he wants her big time here. He is staring, she is smiling. We're gonna get one more fun to miss. She's like, then to be with, and he backs up a second. And she looks at him, and then she does the wild eyes, the tongue. I'm sure you've seen a still of this at some point. She grabs her mic and she does her ah. It's kind of like it's not a good comparison, but I used to live in New Zealand, and people would do the haka, and it's a war dance, and they would like the part of it is you've got bulging eyes and you'd stick out your tongue. You're supposed to make yourself look as scary as possible. And it kind of reminds me of that, but this is a very different context and not the same vibe that she's going for. So I don't know why it brings that association up for me, but that's the association it brings up. So she does these wild eyes and she sticks out her tongue and she's having fun with it. And and he is riveted. He can't take his eyes off of this. He's loving every second of it. This woman's unpredictable and cool and exciting. He gets about as close as he can possibly get to her. He's staring. She looks at him. She turns back to her mic. She's smiling. Go back to she goes, you'll be more fun to miss. He goes, then to be with. She says, you'll be more fun to kiss. He puts his arm around her to hold her mic because he wasn't close enough before. He has to physically envelop her. My God. How do you even technically sing like this? I always wonder this with things like when people have bands and they dance while they sing. It's like, okay, is everybody lip syncing when they do this? Because how do you have that kind of breath control? They're like squishing diaphragms and stuff. I don't know. Anyway, so okay. So he puts his arm around her. He holds her mic. He's singing, then to be with. His mouth is basically grazing her cheek. She's saying, you'll be more fun to miss. He's like, then to be with. And she turns to him as that part of the phrase ends. And she has this look on her face like, what is wrong with you, man? Like, she's enjoying this, but it is also a bit alarming, this state that Billy is in right now. She's never actually seen this before. Maybe she's heard tell, but like, this is a Billy who is not in control of himself, and that is for sure a problem for him, and she knows that. So he's backing up, he's shimmying, he doesn't care, he's dancing while he's playing. But you know, there's a bit of alarm here, but she's also loving it. And just to put a finer point on that scene, If you were to look up desire in the dictionary, I think you get this scene. Like, I understand you could probably point to when they sing Aurora together for that. This for me is like a lust. This is just um so intense. The acting, like the how you get from some of the scenes we've seen in previous episodes to something like this is just wild to me. And then the technical side around the singing too, it is really something what Riley Keough and Sam Claflin did here. All right, how did Billy get to this place? We've seen part of the journey, but now we have to go to 4:13 p.m. Billy is desperate. He's in a phone booth at a bar. Not a good sign. He's already been making some choices probably to walk into this establishment. It's a really beautiful, so it's a payphone, but it's a booth like with glass windows. It's quite nice. His hair is all strewn in his eyes. He's getting messier and messier. Billy is on the phone. He's like, "Do you have a machine or any way I can leave a message for when she's back?" Somebody's knocking on the door because they want to leave. They want to make a call. And Billy's trying to ignore them. He's trying to leave this message. He's like, "Yes, it's room 909. Thank you." The knocking continues. Billy shouts, "I just got in here. F off." We see the guy. He walks away. Billy, into the phone, he leaves a message. He says, "Cam, hey, Cammy, hey, it's me. I don't know where you are, and I know you're angry." He's just searching for words. He's stammering. It's a lot of looking for what he's going to say here. We had been seeing him from one side of his face, and then the camera angle switches to the other side, sort of under it. So again, we're just we're making him look so like bedraggled, and his hair is in his face, and we're shooting him from, but it's not like a hero shot. It's not like this man is a legend. It's like this man is, we're shooting him from rock bottom right now. He's continuing the message. "If there's any part of you that wants to make this work, please just come to the show tonight. Please, I love you. I need my girls." He's near tears. He's having a hard time getting this out. We look from outside those clear doors from to the payphone from inside the bar, and we can see him there, and he rests his head on the phone. I mean, he's got a problem and he knows it, and he's a moment away from falling off the wagon, and I'm sure he feels it. He's going to make another call first. He calls Teddy's studio. We see Deb answer the phone. She says, "Studio A." He says, "Teddy Price, please." Deb's like, "He's in a session at the moment. Can I take a message?" Billy is so anxious. He's like, "No, it's fine." And then Deb recognizes his voice. She says, "Is that you, Billy?" He's near tears at this point. He's like, "Yeah, hi, Deb." She says, "Geez, let me get him." He's probably about to try to stop her, but we watch her get up. She puts down the phone. She goes to get Teddy. I wonder if Teddy ever left. I don't know. I don't feel like Teddy would reveal the extent of Billy's problems to Deb. Or maybe Teddy was like, "If Billy ever calls sounding like a mess, get me immediately." I don't know. I don't know if that's a conversation that was ever had. We're going to see Billy again. He's almost crying. Teddy sits down. He's laughing. He's like, "Hey man, Billy Dunn." Uh, Billy's like, "Hey Teddy, hey." Teddy says, "Hey, what's going on, son?" "Son." He says, "Don't you have a show in a minute?" Billy's like, "Yeah, I just." Teddy's like, "Billy?" Billy says, "No, I'm good, man. I wanted to hear your voice. Make sure you're taking your pills." And Teddy sits up. He's a little more alert. Like, this does not sound like a good call. He says, "Yeah, you don't have to worry about me." Billy's gonna cry. He's like, "Good. Okay, that's good." Teddy says, "Is that the real reason you called?" He knows the answer to that is no. He's just trying to give Billy an opening here. We see that Billy can't answer. It was like, "I love you, Teddy." Oh my God. If you're Teddy, get Rod on the phone now. Ugh. Um, where the knocking on the door continues, this guy from outside really wants to make a call. He's like, "Hurry up, asshole, let's go." Teddy's like, "Billy?" And then from outside the door, we see the guy hitting the door and the door opens. Billy has hung up on Teddy. He's walked into the bar itself, comes out of the phone booth. He looks at the guy. The guy looks at him. He's like, oh, wait, you're Billy Dunn. He was really angry a second ago. And I was like, oh, well, let me get you a drink. Uh-oh. Because that guy's got tickets for tonight's show. Um, and so he's like, okay, let me buy you a drink. Billy's walk slows. Oh, it was bound to happen. Something was going to tempt him in this room, and it didn't even have to be this guy. He says, bartender, get a couple jacks for me and my man Billy Dunn right here. Bartender pours the drinks. Billy's looking at them with just defeat in his eyes. It's like he's already had the drink. He knows he's going to. Um, Billy watches the drink being poured and then he takes a shot. And tears are welling up in his eyes. A tear rolls down. A single tear rolls down Sam Claflin's face. The control. My goodness. All right, we're going to see Daisy. How's it going since Daisy had that conversation with her mom? Not well. Daisy is dancing in her room. She's wearing I don't know what you'd even call this. It's a black, I don't know, a long shirt, but it's like, is it crocheted with really wide stitching? Is that what it is? Um, we're getting a really hard hitting song here from the Saints called This Perfect Day. And Daisy is getting as wrecked as she can, cocaine, booze, whatever. Phone's ringing. Rod's trying to get a hold of her. The song is saying, don't talk to me about what you've done. Ain't nothing has changed. It all goes on. Which it may also be a response to what we just saw with Billy as well. She picks up the phone the first time. Rod's like, Daisy, where the F are you? She hangs up. Don't need that. Raises the volume. The phone rings again. Nope, not gonna do that. Learned better the second time around. She's dancing more. She looks in the mirror. This song saying, I've seen them drive around in cars, all look the same, get drunk in bars. It was pretty reflective of what we've been seeing here for Billy and also maybe now for Daisy. Phone's still ringing. Daisy goes into the bathroom. She lights, I guess, a cigarette, and then she takes some of the ash and she just uses it as eye makeup. She's just begun her eye makeup process. The literal smoky eye. She smiles. Okay, this'll do. This'll do. But she has more work to do on these eyes. We're going to go to sound check, and Rod is heated. It's like, anyone have a guess where they might be? Anyone? The band's setting up. We've got Warren, we've got Eddie, we've got Karen. Nobody answers. Warren's like, well, it's not like Billy to be missing sound check. Then, as Rod has sort of walked away, he's not present for the rest of this conversation. Warren points to Eddie's face. He's like, it's a nice shiner you got there. Warren's going to come over to Eddie, and Warren says, Eddie? Eddie looks at him. Warren sits down. He takes off his sunglasses. This is the serious conversation Warren needs to have with his buddy Tweedledum. And he says, what'd you say to him, man? And he says, nothing. Just some shit that needed to be said. That's all. Warren's like, Eddie, look, I'm going to say some stuff, all right? And you're going to promise that you're not going to hate me for it. Warren needs to give his monologue now. He says, what the F is wrong with you? What a great start to Warren's monologue. Eddie squints like you get one monologue and this is what you do with it. Anyway, Warren's like, so what if Billy's an a-hole? So what if you're not the guy? I mean, you are in the biggest band in the effing world right now. You get to fly around on jet planes and sleep on $100 bills, and we get to play songs that millions of people listen to, and they effing love them, Eddie. What, that's not enough for you? Eddie's like, Warren's getting fired up. He's like, no. No, I'm serious. This shit does not happen to anyone. We're the luckiest mother effers in the world, bro. Eddie says, Warren, all due respect, I think I may be looking for a little more out of life than you are. It doesn't even make sense, Eddie. It doesn't make sense. I don't know. Well, does it? I don't know. Eddie wants to be the guy. Warren's happy to be a guy. He's happy to be. Is this like equivalent to small fish in a big pond versus big fish in it's not even that's not a perfect example either. I Warren's happy to be happy. Eddie wants what Billy has. It's not that he wants more. It's that he wants what Billy has. Almost all the things that Billy has, to be honest. So, hmm. Um, Warren nods knowingly. He's like, yeah, this guy. This guy. He chuckles. He's like, yeah, man, right. Well, you keep looking, Eddie. And Warren walks away. Eddie says, where are you going? Warren says, me? I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna go smoke a joint, pop some $1,000 champagne. Or you know what? Maybe I'll call my girlfriend, the movie star. And he walks away. He's like, see you tonight, bro. Um, and then he walks away. And Eddie's miffed at all of this. And my guess, if I had to guess, when this band breaks up, I think Warren and Eddie are no longer Tweedledee and Tweedledee. I don't think that they talk anymore after that. I don't know. Do you think they patch things up? Do you think that I mean, Warren's just saying, like, can we have a little healthy dose of perspective here? Your life is pretty awesome. And Eddie is saying, like, I think I want more out of life than you. But actually, maybe Eddie wants what Warren has. Um, he wants the girl of his dreams, which is Camilla. He's not going to get that person. Warren got his girl of his dreams in Lisa. So there's that. Warren feels good enough about being the drummer to just be the drummer. I think Eddie wouldn't be happy to just be an awesome bass player. He wants to be the front man. I don't know. But I think Warren has said a thing to Eddie that Warren needs to say. And is Eddie's gonna be Eddie. Eddie's gonna want the things that Eddie wants. I mean, love it or not, like the resentment built for a reason. And I do maybe think that if Billy Dunn had handled things with Eddie a little differently, I don't think it would have gotten to this place. I do think that Eddie has had aspirations that were not realistic for him, and that he hasn't had much acceptance of who he is. But I do think that like maybe there were some ways that Billy could have approached him at a younger time in their lives where like maybe it wouldn't have gotten to this place. So I don't know. I find all these things are things that needed to be said, and maybe some of them took a little too long to get there. We're going to get a pre-lap of Billy's voice message that he left for Camilla, and Camilla's listening back to it now. We hear the same thing that he left for her. I don't know where you are. If there's any part of you that wants to make this work, please just come to the show tonight. Please. I love you. I need my girls. Camilla is really struggling with this as she's listening to it. Camilla Morone was basically on the back end of crying for this entire episode, if not actively crying. She's we can see her struggling not to cry, and then by the time the message is done, she is crying. It's like, it's sort of like, Daisy calling her mom earlier. It's like, I know what this call is going to be before I even pick up the phone. And for Camilla in this situation, yeah, Billy's giving a really heartfelt apology, but has that changed anything about the situation? So she goes to this concert. What's going to be different? Um, and I think Camilla's wrestling with that right now. Now we're going to go back to what's happening on stage. We get some cheering. Daisy comes to her mic and she says, you really lucked out, Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage. We're going to see Simone in the wings. We've been waiting for Simone to come back. We knew this was going to happen eventually. Billy goes out to Simone and hugs her. That was kind of nice to see because they've probably never met before, but surely Daisy's talked about Simone quite a bit. And so I like the fact that we get this moment of those two characters hugging each other. Um, and I imagine Simone like really sized him up when she met him in person. Anyway, so Simone is in the wings, Billy goes and hugs her, and Daisy is still announcing Simone. She's like, welcome to the stage, my sister and my best friend, Simone Jackson. We see Daisy smiling at Simone. Daisy leads everybody in clapping for Simone. Simone comes on stage with a flourish that is befitting of a queen. We get a bit of a drum crash that comes in here. Rod is going to come up to Billy as Billy gets a new guitar. He switches out his guitar with one of the roadies, and he's like, hey man, serious question. Are you okay tonight? Billy says, I've never been okay, Rod. Billy looks at Rod with a little smile, like, it's just the truth. And he leaves Rod hanging there to go back on stage. Rod's like, because it's all about reactions for Timothy Oliphant in this episode. All right, we're going to get the opening notes of the song, The River. Simone and Daisy are dancing a little on stage. Billy and Daisy start the song. They do, I could have sworn this was the way. Tell me again, why do we stay on such a lonely, lonely, lonely road? It looks so fun to be on stage with these three. I mean, there's more than three people on this stage, but the three who are singing, you just want to be them on this stage right now. Billy and Daisy are continuing. They're saying, you never guess, I never know. This is where Simone's voice gets added into the mix, but we're on the same side, and it's going to be a lonely, lonely, lonely road. Daisy is smiling at Simone. Billy is smiling, I think, at both of them. And then Simone's solo starts. And Daisy's going to give her one of these. Yay, it's Simone. She's going to do her, if I follow you to the river, send my blues out to the sea. Will you stay with me forever? Will you chase me in my dreams? Daisy and Simone now get a chance to sing as a duet. If I throw it all in the river and let the rhythm take the lead, will you stay with me and never let you leave on me? Do the ooh, that whole bit. Okay, so Daisy is during that part, Daisy's hugging Simone from the side, leaning on her. It's a feel good moment. I mean, this friendship has been through quite a lot, and here they are having this great moment together, especially given the fact, I mean, first of all, we know that this is going to be Daisy's last performance with the Six, probably on a stage like this. You know, I obviously she's going to go on to do more with music, but like, will she ever be on a stage like this again? Probably not. I think that's what she's saying. She's walking away from. Simone knows that's what's coming too. Simone has never had an opportunity to be on a stage like this. And because of turning down Attic Records, I think she's maybe admitting to herself that it may never happen for her. Um, she chose Bernie. I don't know if the what she would have signed with Attic Records would have led to a stage like this either, but um, you know, turning the record contract down probably makes it less likely. So like Simone is being gifted this opportunity to have this moment in front of such a volume of a crowd. She gets to have this moment with Daisy. For Daisy, she gets to have like this send off with her best friend on stage. It's just really sweet. Um, I just so enjoy it. And it's interesting to hear Simone's voice added into this song, and you can hear the the disco queen vibe that she brings to it. And that is a vibe constructed for this show. I mean, Nabibi sings, but she's in different genres, right? So this is something that she added as a way to incorporate Simone's style into this song. Okay, 8:33 p.m., close to showtime. Rod is pacing in the green room. That's got to be really close to when they go on. Billy enters. Rod sighs. Billy gives him a big hug. Rod's like, you're trying to effing kill me, aren't you? Billy's like, she's not here, is she? Camilla, is she here? Rod's like, no, man. She's not here either. He's still waiting on Daisy. He didn't have Daisy or Billy there a second ago. Rod is exasperated, still very stressed. He walks away. Billy goes into the bathroom. He's washing his face. He's breathing hard. He's looking in the mirror. He drinks from a flask. He drinks a lot from a flask. The camera is now going to follow Daisy into the green room. So from the hallway into the green room on Daisy's back as she walks in, we see her white dress. And then we see she's got her hair's down and there's this little braid that's kind of a couple braids tied together. Simone and Warren are talking. And then they see her come in and they stop. And Simone's surprised. Something about the way she looks is not typical for Daisy. Simone stands, she's like, oh, wow. We're going to see Daisy smiling very proudly in her, we're going to call it smoky eye makeup. It's well beyond. It's charred. It's burnt to a crisp. Like the thick and this is like literal ash from cigarettes. Um, Simone's like, oh, no, this is a cry for help. Um, but we're gonna see Daisy kiss Simone on the forehead, and Rod comes in. He's like, finally, great, gang's all here, huh? Rod sees Daisy, he's like, he double takes because once again, it's all about the reactions with Rod today. This thing is barely hanging together. This day must have taken years off of Rod Reyes's life. It's so poor guy. Um, Daisy, with the eye makeup and the wide eyes, she puts her hand on Rod. She's like, "You look scared, Rod, and you should be." And he's like, huh. He goes, possibly the best line read from Timothy Oliphant in a whole mess of really good line reads in this episode. She says, "You look scared, Rod, and you should be." He goes, okay. Then he turns to everybody else and he's like, all right, this time's for real, everybody. We finally got, like, get them on stage. His job is to get them on stage. Everybody finally goes out onto the stage. Billy hangs back. Daisy's getting herself a drink. He's staring at her. She knows he's still in the room, so she turns around real quick. He's staring at her, so she walks towards him and she says, "What?" And she's got a challenging smile on her face. She says, "You don't like my makeup?" He grabs her face, or like kind of like her neck, her upper neck, and he gives her a kiss. She looks in his eyes. He smiles, but she can smell his breath. She says, "You're drinking again." He walks away backwards with a big smile, looking at her seductively and a little wobbly. Uh, she's smiling at this, but as he leaves, she's kind of assessing the situation because, Billy drinking is a big deal. Even if she's kind of turned on right now, it's a mess. So I think we can hold these things side by side all at once, right? Okay. We're going to go back on stage at the concert. We get a sort of a mid shot on Billy. Warren has a drum beat going, and I don't know what you would call this part of the show. Is it like call outs or something? Billy wants to, get applause for everybody in the band. He wants to acknowledge everybody in the band. So we're going to get Billy saying, all right, we have to go soon. We can't leave without paying some dues. I'm going to need your help. You with me? And the whole crowd cheer. It's a ton of crowd cheering here in this section. We get a shot of this huge full stadium. Billy says, on drums, a man who keeps time like a Rolex and who cuts grooves like a knife. It's Mr. Warren Rojas. Cool camera work here. He points to Warren. The camera swirls to Warren as he gets a little drum feature, and then the camera circles back to a smiling Billy. Billy walks towards Eddie. Camera's still moving. Eddie smiles. We hear just a little bit of the bass is mixed up, we can hear it louder in the mix just a little bit. Billy goes, ladies and gentlemen, and then he veers away from Eddie. Fake out on purpose because you jerk. He goes to Karen. He says, the classiest, coolest cucumber ever to play the keys. It's Ms. Karen Circo. The camera is going to arc to Karen. Karen smiles. She does a little riff. And then it's really cool. She sort of slides her hands down the keys, and that pushes the camera out back towards Billy. Billy is going to then cross the stage to Graham. He says, up next, as good a man as you'll ever meet. But sometimes I forget how lucky I am that he's my brother. It's Graham Dunn, everyone. Graham smiles. He rips a bit. Billy goes back with a complete lack of enthusiasm, and he goes towards Eddie, but gets nowhere near him. He says, on bass. Well, that's Eddie Roundtree. Eddie is annoyed. We hear perfect sound mixing wise. This is so perfect. We hear just slightly elevated level of the bass, but barely. Like, not even the sound mixing wants to acknowledge Eddie in this moment. And he's like, all right, wait, let's try that again. Shall we? He goes over to Eddie and now he lays it on thick. He's like the master of the low end hammer, the man, the face who keeps pace on the bass, the groove layer, the four string slayer. It's Eddie, Demetrius Roundtree. Eddie gets his feature. The sound mixing is appropriate at the level it's supposed to be at. Billy puts his arm around him and he's like, I love you, brother. Like, we've been through it, man, but we got it done. Um, Billy gets right in his ear and he says, go F yourself, brother. You're done. He pats his head. It's not a loving pat, my friends. It's like a pat on the back of the head, like put you. It's like the pat he gave on his chest outside the garage that one day when he told him he was going to play bass. And it leaves Eddie ice cold. He just stands there like. Billy is going to walk back to the stage front and we're going to see Daisy dancing. I love this little dance Daisy does here. I don't know how many times I've watched this. It's not even much of a thing. I just love it. Partly because of what she's wearing too. I don't know. I love that we can't see her feet. I just it's like she's just what is it? It's like she's a specter, like a literal ghost. Just anyway. Daisy. Uh, well, so Billy says, and finally, well, do I even need to say it? Daisy rushes to the mic. Well, I want to hear you say it. And she gives like a sultry smile at him. He comes right over to her mic with a seductive smile. And he says into her mic, it's Daisy Jones, everybody, with his late night radio DJ voice. They give each other a look. He walks away. He goes back to his mic to put it back on the stand. And she says, Billy Dunn, everybody. And okay, so we've done all the credits to everybody. We're then going to see Camilla come into the audience. She's just showing up for this part of the show, and that's her big mistake. So her arms are folded. She's ready to receive, and boy, is it going to be an earful and an eyeful. We're going to get Aurora. This song has never been so good as it is at the end of this episode, you know? We're going to see Camilla watching as we hear the song. So we hear Billy and Daisy singing together. You found me in flames. It's a daylight of change. Baby, all that stuff is done. You're my morning sun. We're going to see Billy and Daisy very distant on stage, probably from Camilla's perspective. Daisy's on the tambourine. Aurora, you're the one. We're going to see Graham and Karen looking at each other. Okay, so they're looking at each other now. All right, that's a step in the right direction. You're my morning sun. We're going to get a mid shot of Daisy and Billy. Billy leaves his mic and makes a beeline for Daisy's. Camilla smiles a little like, oh, well, it's the act, you know? Um, they're singing When I Was Away, You Called from a Fever Dream, The Crazy Ways Are Done, You're My Morning Sun. We're going to start getting a montage here from Camilla's memories. This is Camilla's thoughts. She's replaying these moments with Billy in her head. The first parts of this montage are Camilla watching Billy from earlier in the series. And remember, earlier in a previous episode deep dive, I described like what we were seeing from Camilla as like she's bringing fan energy to their relationship. She watches him like a fan in these places. She supports him like a groupie. There are scenes where you're like, that could be she could just be one of the other people in this space. And then, but the camera's really focused on her. Obviously, she's a big part of this story, but it didn't feel like there was parody at the early stage of their relationship to me in the way that the camera was picking up these moments with her. And the camera's showing them to us again, but as a way of her recapping her memories over time with Billy, her watching with folded hands as he's performing on stage, her watching him performing as he's in practice in the garage. You know, this is what's replaying in her head. Moments when she was a voyeur to him. So those are the first scenes that we get sort of cut together. And then the montage, then we hear the words My Aurora, and we start seeing the montage is now going to add in Daisy singing with Billy. Camilla watching Daisy singing with Billy, still a voyeur in her own life with her own husband, watching her husband sing with Daisy, work with Daisy, fight with Daisy, have secret late night phone calls with Daisy. And Camilla's observing all those things. Now we're going to hear You're My Morning Sun again. Billy, now we're going to do sort of like the call and response of it all. Billy saying, I kind of think I want to make it last forever. Camilla starts fighting back the tears. Like it's really hitting her what this relationship has actually been looking like. Daisy is saying, oh, I kind of think I want to make it last forever. Billy was, replying, I kind of think I want to make it last forever. We're going to see from Camilla's perspective in the seating area, the stands, Billy is singing really close to Daisy into her mic. I mean, not only has Billy made the choice to go to her mic, he is as close as he can be to Daisy. Daisy is repeating, oh, I kind of think I want to make both of them. Their mouths are really close to each other. They're looking into each other's eyes and into the mic. They're singing, yeah, Aurora, I am here. Camilla's crying now. These two are so connected when they sing, and this is just yet another moment of Camilla on the side watching her husband and this other woman that seems to be very connected to, and he invited her to this concert, and this is what he's doing at this concert. This is his attempt to save his marriage. What? So they are continuing. I won't disappear again. How soon can you come? You're my morning sun. What a cool shot. I mean, look, how many times have we all rewound this one? The camera starts from behind Daisy and Billy. It does a half circle around them to come up front. And they're singing Aurora, you're the one, you're my morning sun. Aurora, you're the one. And as they're sort of lingering on that, the camera gets all the way to the front of them and they are basically kissing. I literally don't even know how they're doing this from a technical standpoint. Like, how can you physically be like almost kissing and singing at full, like, they're belting. They're belting, singing full volume, but it's a makeout scene practically. It's like a really interesting, I don't know how they blocked this, how they did this. Wild. Camilla is really serious watching this because what is this that she's watching that she was just invited to see? She's going to leave when the song ends. And then the song ends, and Billy is going to grab Daisy's arm to prevent her from kind of walking away. The whole band bows together. They walk off stage. Daisy kind of puts her arms on Billy, and there's a lot of physical contact between them as they're walking out. And then we're going to see the lighting switch, and the backdrop is blue. It's the cooler mood. It's all more quiet now. They haven't done an encore yet, but they're bringing down the mood in the room to get people to simmer. And so there's this beautiful blue light now that's going to be backstage because it's coming through the backdrop. And we are going to see now what's happening behind the backdrop. So the crowd is still cheering. They want an encore. Backstage, we're going to see Billy and Daisy making out. I mean, they have been seducing each other for the entire show, and they are ready to do something about it, even though they probably have like under a minute. I don't know. We get that blue light thrown on them. We see them from the side. It's more than a silhouette, but it's just beautiful, this shot. Billy is voracious. I mean, he's like, I mean, he needs this woman. They're panting. He lifts her up. She straddles him, and then so she's like, "Well, what are we doing here? What is this?" He says, "She left me." Daisy gets down. She's like, "Okay, what?" Billy says she's leaving. Billy pauses from kissing her to pour some cocaine onto him so he can snort it. She's like, Billy. He's like, what? I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess. Like on the one hand, like they're both super turned on right now, and she wants this, but not this exactly. I mean, it's a what's going on? And Billy's a mess. Billy's an absolute mess. So elsewhere in the under the blue light, we're going to see Graham and Karen. He's holding her face, looking her right in the eyes, because somewhere along the way, over the course of this show, he went from not being able to look at her at all to making some sort of peace with the situation and deciding he wants Karen in his life anyway. He has made that decision. So here he is backstage with her, holding her face, looking her in the eyes and saying, I love you, okay? And if you want to live out of a suitcase, sleeping on tour buses for the next 20 years, then great. So do I. Karen says, you don't. We're going to see them. Another gorgeous shot. We see them still like behind that same backdrop with that same blue light, but we can also see where they're standing. There are stadium lights that are directed at them. And I don't know, it just really adds a lovely backdrop to this scene. Graham says, yes, I do. Kids, no kids, I don't care. I love you. She looks into his eyes. He's like rubbing her face. And he says, just say you feel the same and we'll be fine. And she shakes her head no. She says, I'm so sorry, Graham. And he's devastated. I don't know if I really want to unpack this until we get to the interview part, to be honest. So there's a lot to say about it, but I think we need to hear what Karen actually thinks about this. But yeah, I mean, the big thing here for me is that he just, over the course of doing their set, he went from being so hurt and so angry and so like mourning the loss to this resolution, which I think he really means. And he got there in one show. And I don't know, it was there one song that did it, the song where he first looked back at her. He was so lost in thought for the whole thing. He had this really interesting inner process going on. And the result of that was, I am convicted. I love this woman and I will do whatever I need to do to be with her. She says, no, hard pass. What's been happening with Daisy and Billy? Well, he actually snorts the cocaine that he laid out for himself. She's like, what are you doing? This isn't who you are. She's holding his face. She's looking into his eyes. It's like, I want this, but I don't want this. Um, Billy says, yes, it is, Daisy. He's slurring his words. He says, we don't have to fight it anymore. All right, you and me, we're broken. All right, let's just be broken together. Let's be broken together. All right. He keeps getting those words out. She's like, Billy, he's like, let's be broken. He goes to kiss her. She pushes him away and she says, no, stop. I don't want to be broken. And she says it with insistence in her eyes. She walks away and she leaves him stunned, high and drunk backstage. The crowd's cheering. They want these people to come out for an encore. You know, when she says this isn't who you are, she is the only person here who hasn't seen, well, and maybe Rod, she's the only person here who hasn't seen Billy be exactly this way, if not worse. And she's heard tell, she's seen him have incredible restraint since she's met him because he says he can go to this place. She's heard the stories of what's happened when he was in this place. And then when confronted with what it actually looked like, it was like, wait. And again, I wonder to what, like, is this because of a concern for him? Is it because this is holding a mirror up to herself? She's alarmed right now, and she doesn't like to see this downward spiral he's on. And it's a real wake-up call for her. And so now the band's going to come out again on stage. So the crowd is shouting for an encore. Everybody takes their places. Billy's looking stunned. He doesn't know what to do with himself. Because who does he have now? Like he doesn't have Camilla. He doesn't have Daisy. Somebody in the crowd has the bright idea, look at us now. And then the chant starts, look at us now. Daisy is sad. She comes to the mic. Everybody on stage is hearing this chant of Look at Us Now, a song they haven't played on stage because Billy never wanted to. Daisy, or at least since the Aurora tour started, Daisy looks out into the crowd, so does Billy. Daisy says, "Let me hear it if you're in love tonight." The cheering swells. She looks at Billy. She says, "I've been in love." Billy looks back. He's got some tears in his eyes. She says, "And it hurts, doesn't it?" Graham's eyes are welling up. Karen's watching Graham. Daisy says, "But it doesn't have to." This part of her like monologue out to the audience, her speech out to the audience, she's alternating between these moments where she looks at Billy and Billy looks back, and the moment where they're both looking out into the crowd. And so I didn't like always write all the direction there, but I'll make note of when they look back at each other. So she said, "But it doesn't have to." She looks at Billy and he looks back. Then she says, "Love doesn't have to be bombs and tears and blood. Love can be peace." She looks out to the audience for that. She looks back to Billy at the point when she says peace, and it can be beautiful. And if you're lucky enough to find somebody who lifts you up, she looks back at Billy here. He looks at her. She says, "Even when you don't deserve it, that's where the light is." We're going to get a big crowd shot because here it's coming. They're going to sing Look at Us Now. Daisy looks out into the crowd. She says, "So my wish for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is to find someone who helps you see the light." Billy's lip is quivering here. She says, Daisy gives this mournful look at Billy. He looks back and she says, "This is a love song." That look, man, mournful. They're both hurting on stage right now. They basically broke up before they ever dated. Billy is crying. The opening notes of Look at Us Now are playing, and he's just crying. He goes to go to the mic. He doesn't want to sing. He can't get any words out. He's not offended. He just can't sing. The crowd starts singing the words for him. And then they get to Baby, Baby, Baby. Do you know who you are? Daisy's going to take the mic off her stand. She's going to let the crowd sing into it. She's singing with them. Is it out of our hands? Tell me, tell me, tell me. She's standing there in her white dress at the foot of the stage. The fans are holding lighters in the audience. Some of those people exist for real, probably, and some of them are CGI. How we made it this far. They're all singing. Billy's crying. Daisy then takes her vocal section. She says, "Did we unravel a long time ago?" She looks at Billy. She says, "There's too much we don't want to know. I wish it was easy, but it isn't so." She looks at him and she mouths, "Go." She gives him a nod, like, "You go get Camilla. I'll do this. I'll take care of this." He nods. He runs off stage. Switches. He gives his guitar to the roadie. He runs out. Daisy is, singing, "Oh, we can make a good thing bad." We see the song is continuing. Camilla packs up her stuff at the hotel. Billy gets in a car. He asks for the Beaumont Hotel. We're hearing the guitar solo for Look at Us Now as it continues with the scene of Billy crying in the car. Daisy's singing, "How did we get here? How did we get out? We used to be something to see. Baby, look at us now." The band's singing and backing her up. Finally, when we get to, we keep repeating that. How do we get here? How do we get out? Karen looks to Graham. Graham's playing the guitar with just pain as the light flares behind him. "This thing we've been doing ain't working out." Daisy turns to the band. "How do we get here? How do we get out?" I really like the choice to have Daisy sort of turn to the band here and some camera work they're about to do, because it does feel like Daisy's goodbye to each of these people. But first, we're going to get Billy running through the hotel lobby. He calls for Camilla to wait. He sees her. He calls for her to wait. She turns around. She's holding Julia in her arms, and I guess they decide to take it back to their room. They stare at each other. The song is continuing. "We used to be something to see. Baby, look at us now. Baby, look at us now." The lyrics are continuing. I love it when we get to this point in the song on stage. So what they do here is the camera Daisy's sort of the central point, and the camera sort of bounces to each of the band members. Like, it acknowledges Karen and Eddie and Warren and Graham. And Daisy kind of looks at each of them, and it feels like Daisy's goodbye to each of her band members, even though it isn't really like a lot of movement from the actors on stage. Just something about the way this was shot feels like one moment of connection each. So beautiful. Um, as the song ends, oh, we can make a good thing bad. Daisy leans her head back as the song ends. She does a very deep bow. She stands slowly, and then everybody bows. Everybody exits the stage together. In the wings, Rod's going to approach Daisy because he needs answers. What happened here? This is the worst for Rod. Rod's like, what the F happened out there? Why'd Billy walk off? I mean, what the hell's going on with everybody tonight? Daisy doesn't know what's going on with everybody, but she whispers something to him, which we're going to understand later is she's telling him, like, that was it. I'm not ever performing with this band again. I'm done. Rod's face drops. We haven't heard what she said to him. But we know, I mean, with what she said to Simone so far in this episode, we know it's headed in that direction. All right, we're going to see little Julia in bed sleeping as Camilla and Billy fight on the balcony, which seems a more appropriate place to fight, even though that is in the open air and anybody on any balcony could hear this. And Camilla's crying. She's like, what could she possibly give you that I can't? How could she possibly ever love you better than I do? We get this handheld camera moment. They're watching these two as Billy approaches her. Billy says, she doesn't love me any better. Camilla says, then what? What is it? He says, she just sees me, the all of me. He's crying too. I like the choice for him to say the all of me. She just sees me, the all of me. Um, I don't know what it is about using the article the there that I just enjoy so much. I feel like I would have expected it not to be there, and it feels like a very lyrical thing to say. Camilla says, and I don't. He says, I don't let you. That hurts, Camilla. And I've been saying it from the early episodes here. She told him he can't be a guy who's messed up with her after their child is born. She, he, what he's saying to her is like the result. It's probably too reductive to boil it down to this. Because if he really wanted to talk with her about this stuff, he probably could have along the way. She was just so angry at the time. But what she said then, when she found him cheating on her, was once this baby is born, you're going to be the best man on the planet. Done. Like, you're going to be fixed up and this is going to be behind you. And so he's never felt like he could show this to her. He's never felt, he's always felt that he needed to follow her instructions and be the perfect husband as or to whatever extent he could. And so he's been working at that and he's been repressing all this other stuff, but Daisy gave an outlet for it, and now she's complaining about that. It's like, oh, she just sees me, the all of me. She says, and I don't. And he says, I don't let you. Yeah, that was the agreement. That was the contract. Billy says, I can't let you. If you knew how many times a day I sit and think about setting my life on fire, our lives. She says, I loved you since I was, since she was young. You think I don't see every side of you? Camilla shakes her head. She's like, look, neither of us have been perfect. I never wanted the perfect life. I just wanted my life, my husband, which is you. They both look over the edge of the balcony. It's like, what are we doing here? And then they hear a little voice. Julia says, Mommy. And Julia's come out into the balcony in her pajamas. Camilla's got her purple dress on. She scoops up her daughter. Um, I mean, I think I've said the things I want to say about the meat of that argument there. I mean, this is just what the setup was for where their relationship was going to go. And yeah, Daisy was the outlet for this side of Billy that he didn't have in, or that he thought he didn't have in Camilla. And so that's where the draw was. And, Billy's not wrong in his assessment, and Camilla's not wrong in hers. It's like, I knew this existed. You just haven't been showing it to me. So this is where we get a big reveal in this episode. The person who's been interviewing all of these folks, the female who's been interviewing all of these folks, turns out it's Julia grown up. The female interviewer says, I remember that night. And we see interview Billy flinch. And the interviewer says, she was wearing the purple dress with those earrings you got her. And now we see Julia for the first time, older Julia behind the camera. And she says, and you were crying, both of you. I'd never seen you cry before. Interview Billy says, you were so little. How do you remember that? Julia says, I remember a lot more than you think, Dad. So they gave us really clear hints with her describing the scene, and now she's called him Dad. So she's Julia. She smiles a little, and we're all like, wow. Um, so back in 77, Camilla puts Julia back to bed. Billy kisses her forehead. He's, wishes her good night. He grabs a duffel bag. He approaches Camilla. Camilla's holding herself. She's having a day. Billy says, I'll work for it, I promise. Camilla nods a little bit, but she can't even look at him. She turns away from him. He leaves. It's like, I'm not agreeing to anything. Like, she's just, especially with what she just saw. He invites her to this show to reconcile, and then he basically makes out with Daisy in the middle of a song, and then actually makes out with her after the song, but Camilla doesn't know that. So outside the green room at the show, so there's a party happening in the green room. Daisy's hanging out outside of it. She's in the hallway. Simone comes out to join her. She says, there's a place in Minnesota. Nobody's going to know. Teddy's going to call ahead and make all the arrangements. Daisy thanks her. And Simone's rubbing her shoulder. She says, you've left family before. You can handle it. Daisy's crying. She says, I know. I just really loved this one. She looks at Simone and they nod at each other, and she says, yeah, and then she hugs Daisy. I mean, yeah, it's not the same thing, Simone. Like, yeah, Daisy's left family before. She can stand on her own 2 feet, or she can lean on people when she needs to. She's done it in the past. But she was leaving an abusive environment with her family, and with the six, I mean, like, things have been really rocky and really emotional with Billy, but I would in no way categorize this family as anything like her family she was born into. Um, Not even close. So this is painful. This is hard. Simone's trying to say you're stronger than you know. You're as strong as you've been in the past. And it's true. And I like that Daisy owns that, but she's like, yeah, but I love this group. There's a real recognition there. Okay, so we're going to get sort of the where are they now segment here with some interviews. Interview Rod says, next morning we were waiting on the bus. Um, well, first we need to wrap it up with like breaking up this band, and then we're going to get that. So he says, next morning we were waiting on the bus. Interview Karen says, I remember thinking it would be okay. We'd been through hell, but we were on the other side of it now. We're going to see Karen, Warren, and Rod on the bus waiting for everybody to show up. Interview Rod's like, I mean, I was trying to figure out how to tell everybody Daisy's leaving, and then I see Eddie. So we're going to see Eddie, just real slow. We're seeing Eddie come out of the revolving door from the hotel. He's got his suitcase. He looks at the bus. He looks at Warren, who looks back at him. Eddie nods a goodbye to him, and he gets into a taxi. Warren's face falls. Tweedledee and Tweedledum no more. Rod is then going to see Graham get to the foot of the bus door. Interesting, cool, kind of a cool choice here, just to shoot the bus stairs for a second, because we're going to see Graham consider, do I go up these stairs or not? He looks up, there's Karen, and he puts his guitar case down and walks away. Interview Rod says, the irony is the chosen ones never know they are chosen. So now we get the where are they now segment. Interview Karen says, I wanted to be a rock and roll star. That's why I was thinking of saying that earlier. She says, to travel the world and play music for strangers. And that's what I did. Pause here. So we're going to see as these people are telling us what has happened for them, we're going to see little images of it. What we see for Karen is a music video that she's done, like a MTV music video or something like that. And the song, she is called Candy Floss, or the band is called Candy Floss. The song is called Solitude. And then it's put out by Glissando Fresh Records. She says, and that's what I did. It's what I still do. The fact that Karen's, hit song on maybe MTV is a song called Solitude feels like she never put away what Graham said to her. Interview Graham shows us what's up with him. He says, I moved back to Hazelwood. We're going to see Graham holding like a for sale sign in front of a home, I guess a house he bought for himself. He says, I fell in love and started a family. We're going to see him meet a woman at a bar. Says, I got a wife and kids now, and then we're going to see a little home video of a young boy throwing a ball to somebody we can't see, and his wife and a baby sitting behind them. And then the camera moves over and we can see Graham throw the ball back. So he says, I fell in love and started a family. I got a wife and kids now, who are my whole world. I've got Karen to thank for that. I'd probably still be pining after her if she hadn't been brutally honest with me that night. Interview Karen says, I mean, I told him what he needed to hear, but I wasn't being honest with him. Ah, doesn't that crush you into a million pieces? Karen really did love him, and she would have loved the world where he would have been okay with what he said he was okay with after that Soldier Field concert. When he said, like, we can live out of a suitcase, we could have kids, we could not have kids, whatever, I just want to be with you. She really, really wanted that to be true. She loved him, and she let him go. And she said, I don't love you back, because she knew he would not be okay with not having a family. And all these years later, she's still thinking about that. And she's performing songs called Solitude. And I think if I had to guess, I'd say not Warren, I'd say that Graham is perfectly content. That's what I think. I think that he got over Karen, right? I don't know. That's my assessment of the situation. I think he was able to put it behind him. I think doing this interview brings up a lot of stuff, but I think he's happy with his family. So I don't know. I think she did lose something there, but she also did not want what he wanted. And so, it's a heartbreak and a big sacrifice out of love for him. Whew. Ugh, that's a lot. Interview Eddie says, I went and formed my own band. We're going to see him with like a short blonde hair look. He's, I guess, lead singer and guitarist for a band. He says, we weren't bad, just, I guess maybe some of the things Billy said to him were kind of true. He says, I'm still out there playing gigs. We see him on stage alone. He says, my life's fine. It's totally fine. He has this energy about it that's like he's convincing himself. It's like, no, really, really, it's fine. Interview Warren says, I've been a session drummer for years now. I mean, I've been on some records, We're going to see him in the studio drumming. He says some classics. We see him get married on a boat to Lisa. He says, I married Lisa back in 82. Still can't believe she said yes. Then we're going to see Warren, Lisa, and two twin girls taking a family picture in front of the same boat. And they line up, they get the picture taken. Interview Warren says, no one asked me to sign their tits anymore, but that's okay. And then he rethinks that. He's like, wait, no. Actually, that's not true. Lisa sometimes she'll, just to be nice. Fair, well played. Well played. Lisa knows how to keep it fresh. Okay, then we're going to get interview Simone. She says, Bernie and I, we opened this club. We see a banner marquee not a marquee, a banner that says Haven. She says, it's ours and we play it all. We see them popping champagne together, I guess the opening of the club, and they kiss. So they're kissing in public. So they've gone to that step. Simone says, whatever gets you up and moving. Sometimes I even get up there myself. Still brings the house down. We're going to see interview Rod. He says, and I quit the business once and for all after that. We're going to see him sipping an espresso at an outdoor table at a cafe. He gets up and he leaves. And then he hears some musicians playing and his walk kind of slows. I don't know. When I see this image, I guess is maybe California because of the greenery that they have there, but it feels like a European cafe, like an outdoor like plaza area. So I don't know. But okay, so he says I was heartbroken when they fell apart more than I'd been with any other band. I don't think I could take another blow. Get your heart broken enough times, you stop falling in love. He chuckles a little bit and then he says, except no, you don't. And we're going to see Rod then looking back at those musicians he just passed. And he says, but that's a story for another time. Maybe that's a part two. Maybe there's a spinoff to be had here or a season two. Interview Billy is going to continue with what happened to Teddy. He says Teddy died in 83. We're going to see a montage of moments that Teddy felt really proud. So Teddy, the first time he watched Daisy, Teddy, when he listened to them sing Look at Us Now for the first time, Teddy watching them at the SNL show, um, Teddy when he was applauding Daisy for Regret Me. So Teddy died in 83. They found him hunched over a soundboard after another all-nighter. He died doing what he loved, just like he said he would. And the Griffin interview with Teddy, we sort of have a button on that. Merv says, Teddy, how do you want the world to remember you? Teddy says, the world? Come on, Merv. The world won't remember me, but they will remember the music, and I'm plenty good with that. Um, this is also a difference there are a lot of differences between the book and the show. I will unpack that in much more depth in an episode that's dedicated to that. But Teddy also dies in the book, but because the book is structured differently, because it's all through interviews, it has to handle Teddy differently. So, although I don't know that it makes a ton of material difference here at this point in this episode, Teddy's character has to inherently change a little bit between those two formats to accommodate the style that the story is told in. And so this Merv Griffin interview is sort of a way to pull in footage that, he couldn't do interviews himself. But yeah, I think that's just worth noting here as a place where there's sort of a fork in the road. Okay, we're going to see interview Daisy. She says, everything that I have and everything that I've done, my music, we're going to see her singing in a studio with Warren on drums, the same studio session that Warren was referring to earlier. She says, my sobriety. We're going to see a marquee for a place called The Singer that says Daisy Jones sold out. So she continued to perform and did well. She says, my daughter. We see a little girl at a ballet class. She runs up and she gives Daisy a big hug, and Daisy has a huge smile for her. So, as a mom, Daisy clearly is very different with her child than her mom was with her. We don't really know how Daisy is as a mom, but like what we see here is nothing like how she was treated. She says all these things, it's all because I left that night. Interview Daisy seems pretty content, I would say. I mean, she seems fine. She seems fine. I don't know, this this interview process might be stirring up some stuff for her, but she's done okay. Interview Julia says, have you been in love since then? Interview Daisy says, many times. I'm sure you've read about some of them. But with Billy, it was different. Certainly a different context now that we know who's interviewing, right? Interview Billy says, everything that made Daisy burn made me burn. We're going to see a whole montage of these moments, this like look back at all the moments, this feel good about the show you've just watched, sort of cut together moments. We're going to see them singing Look at Us Now together for the first time at the Diamond Head Festival. Interview Daisy says, everything I loved about the world, he loved about it. We see them driving towards the ocean. Interview Billy says, everything I struggled with, she struggled with. We see her at the pool party on the diving board. Interview Daisy says, we were two halves in the way you almost never find with anyone. We see Daisy singing More Fun to Miss to Billy for that first time. And then them almost kissing on stage during Aurora. Interview Billy says, but at the same time, we were a mess. We're going to see Billy holding Daisy in the shower when she OD'd. We're going to see Billy and Daisy fighting after the press conference. We're going to see Daisy crying to Billy in a very tender way that she couldn't be on the party bus anymore. We're going to see them singing together on stage at Soldier Field. He says, two natural disasters who needed to heal. Interview Daisy says, I don't think we would have done that. I mean, I know we wouldn't have. We're going to see a couple of these moments of important people that helped them. So we see Billy and Camilla having that balcony conversation. We're going to see Daisy and Simone in that hallway after that Soldier Field performance ended. Because I don't think we would have done that. I know we wouldn't have, at least not then. Interview Billy says, Jules, you know all this. Interview Julia's like, please, Dad, like, let's get the rest of the way to the end here. We're almost there. Interview Billy says, okay, so I got out of rehab, started going to therapy, joined the program. We see him in a sweatshirt on a basketball court, which is where he reunites, I guess, with Camilla and Julia. He's sitting and thinking. He says, did some actual self-reflection for the first time in my life. Yeah, it wasn't easy. He looks at Julia. She looks back. He says, it took years, but it helped, and I won your mother back on that very court. Well, first of all, they're going to show a montage of Camilla and Billy in the van on the way to California, way towards the beginning of the series, reconnecting after he got out of rehab for the first time, renting their house and celebrating over it. And then this moment of reconnection after going into rehab and starting the program, we see that, I guess, wherever he was sitting was probably this basketball court where they're now going to reunite as a family. They're greeting each other there. Then we're going to get a little home video of Camilla sitting on Billy's lap. He says, plus I got to right some wrongs, and he means that towards Julia. He says, never miss a school play or a soccer game, so you become the amazing woman you've become. Julia smiles. And then when your mother got sick, and then he gets emotional. And now we're going to hear from some of the other characters. Interview Karen says, I mean, she was the reason I joined the band. She was the reason I stayed. Very true. Interview Eddie says, you know, I would have been there at the funeral. I just didn't know if, okay, it was awkward. It was weird. I bet Eddie didn't stay in touch with any of them after this. Interview Daisy says, she saw a future for me that I couldn't see for myself, and she was right. You know, if nothing else, Camilla did that more than once. Camilla was the one who basically like forced Billy's hand, invited Daisy to their housewarming party, and got Daisy to be in the band. But she also, at Marlene Dunn's house, and after the Pittsburgh or before the Pittsburgh show, she was like, "You're so many more things than you think you are. You know, like you could be a mom. Like you don't want to screw up your kid, and so you won't." So she's done this for Daisy more than once. Camilla did in her life. Interview Graham just is asked about Camilla, and he says, I can't. He just can't. He's too emotional. Then we're going to see Interview Billy, who's just sitting side by side in conversation with Julia. So they sort of remove the pretense of the interviews here. Billy is just talking it out with his daughter, which is important because they have to do a thing where they flip the camera now. So they have to block this differently. But I think, you know, we've gotten a chance to have more than one reveal here at the end where we know who the interviewer is, and we know that Camilla is no longer alive, which, you know, we got interviews with her, so we wouldn't have known that. But, you know, she was able to do this just in time to get those interviews done. And I guess they were the first interviews that were done in the whole batch. So, we're going to see the side-by-side conversation between Billy and Julia. Billy says, she was the love of my life. And I can say that now and know it's the truth. Give me all the platinum albums you want, the success, the fame, all of it. And I would hand it all back to you for one more minute with her. He wipes away a tear. He hunches over. She hugs him. And it feels like that's, you know, heading towards the end. Interview Warren says, what's crazy is that anyone even remembers the six. We see him miking up for his interview on the boat, and we pan down to see that the boat's actually called the Aurora. Interview Eddie says, when Aurora was released on CD, we sold another, 3 million? We're going to see him on stage playing to an audience, but in his solo show. Interview Graham says, it came on in the car the other day, the classic rock station. I thought that was crazy. Interview Billy says, it's fun to think you did something, left your mark on the world. And now we get to the button that we need. Like something, it's not satisfying yet, right? Like I remember my first watch thinking, ah, this is how this is ending. I needed this bit at the end. So interview Julia says to Daisy, would you ever want to do it again? Daisy says, do what, honey? We see Julia smile at her like, come on, girlfriend, keep up. Like I'm leading us down a path. Uh, Julia says, you know. Daisy says, I don't know how your mother would have felt about that. Julia smiles. She says, I do. She inhales. Daisy doesn't know what that means, but she's Riley Keough, folks. Okay. Go back to this interview. She says, I don't know how your mother would have felt about that. Julia says, I do. Daisy has this look of like, what's ahead for me? And then just before we cut away, there's this flicker of like vulnerability, hope. Like she's still a sucker for Billy. Like she is waiting with bated breath to see what's said here. Something happens on Riley Keough's face where I see the whole world in it for a second. It's amazing. My goodness. Okay. All right, so we're going to see the camera being set up to start the interviews with Camilla. We're going to get like a little bit of a click, a mechanical whirring, a beeping, and Camilla says, "Here, Jules, like, is this where you want me?" Camilla sits down. She looks into a compact, the mirror. She says, "I look ridiculous." Julie's like, "You look beautiful. You always look beautiful, Mom." Camilla adjusts her wig, so she's unwell. She lost her hair. So it really puts everything back into context for us now. Daisy is watching this through the viewfinder. She's sitting next to Julia. She's tearing up. She's looking at Julia because this is a message. This is a gift that Camilla wanted to give to Daisy. And she's sending it through Julia, of all people. Camilla says, wait a second, who else are you talking to for this? Julia's like, well, whoever's willing. So she hasn't done any of these other interviews yet. She says, the guys, Uncle Graham, Rod. Camilla says, are you talking to Daisy? Daisy looks at Julia and she smiles. Julia says, I might. Camilla says, I would like you to, just to tell her that I'm happy for her. Daisy touches Julia's shoulder. Like, this is a gift all by itself. Camilla says, she's made such a beautiful life for herself. I've always been her biggest fan. Daisy's holding back tears. Julia says, I'll tell her, Mom. Camilla says, and you know what else? And now we're going to see Billy and Julia watching this same footage through the viewfinder. Camilla says, tell your father to give her a call. Billy stops holding his breath. I think I want to come back to that in a second. Camilla says, what? Julia says, no, I'm just surprised. We see the camera slowly pushing in on Billy. Camilla says, you shouldn't be. We've had such a wonderful marriage, your father and I. We chose each other, but nothing in life is ever as simple as we want it to be. We're going to see Billy go to Daisy's front door. We see Camilla. She says, so one day when he's ready, tell your father to give Daisy Jones a call. We see Billy at the door knocking. We see Camilla again. She says, and tell Daisy Jones to answer. We see Billy waiting at the door. Camilla says, and at the very least, those two still owe me a song. Daisy opens the door. Billy smiles at her. Daisy's smile beams back at him, and we get the Rolling Stones' Shine a Light. I have some thoughts on this, and I wanted to get through that scene before I unpack it. First of all, it doesn't make a lick of sense to me that Camilla says those two still owe me a song. Daisy owes her nothing. Like, Daisy didn't promise her a song. If anything, she sang enough songs about Camilla. Camilla was the starting point for every song, it seems like, or at least in the beginning it was. So I don't know if that line makes a lot of sense to me. I think maybe something got lost in translation there from the book, possibly. But Billy might owe her a song, but like Daisy, or maybe now she owes her a song because she like fixed him up. She's been a wing woman from beyond the grave. Angel. Is that what that is? Um, also known as Wing Woman from Beyond the Grave. So this exhale that Billy does tells me a whole story and is a little unsatisfying, but here's what my head builds up around this. Billy in that last show, high as a kite, getting drunk, hooking up, kissing at least, making out with Daisy, wants to do more, wants to be with her, wants to be broken together. Daisy, when faced with what the reflection of herself actually looks like, says, I don't want to be broken, which is such a significant thing to me because when they were writing their first song together and Billy accidentally or unintentionally offended her by saying like, "Oh, you're broken." And she's like, "No." And in this moment, she's not denying it. She's not insulted by it. She's saying, "I no longer want to be that." It's saying, I get that I am right now, and this needs to stop." And so she chooses herself and not Billy. Billy now has nobody to go to. Billy goes back to Camilla. He says, I will work on this. Camilla's like, maybe you will, but I have to go. Um, and then Billy does work on himself. He's the guy who tries to get himself to be a good guy again for Camilla. And then he works so freaking hard on it that, like, we see this reunion between Camilla, Julia, and Billy on this basketball court. And it's like, well, okay, I'll take you back. Like, where else was she going? But, I like the fact that Camilla in the show says, I need to walk away. You do you. I'm gonna do me. Like I don't know if you're gonna work on it or not. I don't know if anything's gonna change or not, but I I said that the moment you love her, it was done, and I had to mean that, right? So I think I like that Daisy walks away. She chooses not to be broken. I like that Camilla walks away. She chooses to uphold the things she has been saying to Billy would be the consequences of the actions he's taken. And Billy chooses to double down and work on himself to go back to Camilla. Daisy is not an option for him at this point, but he wants to be the guy who can be good for Camilla. And I think it is absolutely no different than what he's been doing for this whole series so far. Like, up until after he got out of rehab that first time and we started seeing him doing woodworking and running montages. I think that's the Billy that went back to Camilla, but he was serious and he didn't have a Daisy to pull him away. He didn't let himself find another Daisy to pull him away. He committed himself to his wife and his child, but I don't think his feelings about Daisy ever changed. And I don't think his pull to the dark side was ever changed. I think he just made damn sure that he didn't slip up again. And I think for Camilla, that was good enough. I think Camilla had chosen herself, and then she saw this man working so hard, and she saw that he was going to try to make a really good life for her. And I think had she met somebody else in the interim, I think maybe it would have been different. But like they reconnected through that, and I think she lived out this whole relationship knowing that there was another dimension of Billy that he was keeping squashed down. And they lived with that their whole lives. And then Camilla records this video nearing the date of her death and says, Billy, you are released. Like, we had a good run, we lived a good life, and nobody is obligated to anybody anymore. Like, do your thing. This, like, whatever this other side of you needs you to do. Like, I know it's there. I know it exists. She doesn't know what Daisy wants. She has no visibility to that. But for her to say all this, it's like, yep, your dad needs this. And she's known it for years. And I think it's an act of great sacrifice. It's an act of great love that she's been with him all this time. I think it's maybe in some ways the opposite of the way that the Karen and Graham sacrifice plays out. But for me, it was really important in this show that Camilla confronts Daisy and says, it's not okay with me that I'm just the person he has to be with. And I like that she leaves him. And I'm sad for her that, um, I hope she was satisfied with being like the situation that she ended up in at the end, where she knew that Billy probably still loved Daisy, but it was she could make peace with the situation she was in, and they could live a good life together. I hope that was enough for Camilla. It probably wasn't horrible for Camilla. The temptation wasn't actively in front of them on a daily basis. But I did need to see these moments where she stood up for herself in the show. But Camilla plays out a little differently, and I'm going to talk about that a lot in the podcast where I talk about that. So stay tuned for that. That's coming quite a bit down the road. I'm looking to drop some interviews first before we get there. Um, but yeah, those are my feelings about this show. As for what happens after that door gets opened and they smile at each other, I think Daisy and Billy are off to the races. I think that they're going to pick right up where they left off. I mean, I don't think that they're going to go down the road of addiction, um, or at least active. I think that they may not be broken together anymore, but I do think a lot of the things that pulled them together and bound them together, and a lot of that sort of way of seeing the world is still true for them. And I think they will pick up where they left off. I have a lot of confidence in those two. So that's that's my take on the show, folks. I mean, we did it. Music for the episode. Most of the music for this episode is from Daisy Jones and the Six. Of course, we get Dancing Barefoot by Patti Smith. We get The Perfect Day by the Saints. We get Shine a Light by the Rolling Stones. But most of this, we're going to get Daisy Jones and the Six songs. We get Regret Me, Kill You to Try, No Words, Let Me Down Easy, More Fun to Miss, The River, Aurora, and Look at Us Now. I'm going to credit this one to Daisy Jones, Type of Guy. And then I'll credit one to the Dunn brothers of Look Me in the Eye. Say it with me. Put the grease on the wheel. Okay. Favorite quote. I've got a few honorable mentions here. I'll start with one from Simone. Finding my voice, but I knew my voice. I've always known my voice. I was just afraid to use it. I think that reflects how I feel about people's voices. Like I think it's not that we never, like, there are times when we feel like we don't know what we want to say, but I think what we want to say is always there, but sometimes it's really hard to hear. I think our intuition is always there speaking, but sometimes it's being covered up by a lot of noise and it's speaking very quietly. And I think the more you can listen to it, the louder it gets, the easier it is to read. So I think Simone saying, like, I knew my voice. I've always known my voice. I was just afraid to use it. It's like it was there. I understood what I needed. It took me some time to sort of do something about it and really be ready to hear it. There's a quote from Daisy where she says, love doesn't have to be bombs and tears and blood. Love can be peace. It's beautiful. And certainly we've seen all those depictions happen in this show. Um, I'm gonna add a quote from Rod in here as an honorable mention. Get your heart broken enough times, stop falling in love. Except no, you don't. That's kind of nice. For a guy who mostly had like, okay, type of reaction lines in this episode, that was a really nice zinger he had there. Okay. My favorite quote of the episode, and this scene just floored me. So many scenes did in this episode. But my favorite quote is from Daisy. She says, Mom, sometimes I think there are a million strangers out there who love me more than you ever did. Look, is it the most uplifting quote from the episode? Surely not. But that scene is epic. So good. So well done, so well acted, so well written. And that line breaks my heart. Okay, questions for you. I have two. First of all, let's look back. What are your favorite moments from this show? You've seen the whole thing now. Maybe you've rewatched it 1,000 times already, and this is your 1,001st time watching it. Um, Favorite moments from the show, whatever category, whatever episode. This is the place to put them in the YouTube comments because you're not spoiling it for anybody. Hopefully, everybody has seen the whole thing up until this point. I also wanted to ask, is there anything new that you took away from this rewatch or from hearing my feedback or reading other comments? Like, what's something new you got from this show? There have been a lot of new things for me, even though it's been a little bit of a silo of my own voice in some ways. Even that, and there have also been people who have been writing in with comments along the way that have illuminated new elements of the show for me. But even just taking time to really stop down on the scenes and think about them has unearthed some new details. So I'm curious for you what's come out in that process. We've done it. All 10 episodes of Daisy Jones and the Six. And like I promised, this is not the end. I've got a bunch of interviews that I'm working on with cast and crew. I'm going to start dropping those next week. And then I've got a couple bonus episodes at least that I'm working on. But I'd like to get some interviews done first. So stay tuned because there's going to be some really fun content coming up and all new angles to look at this show from along the way. Thank you for joining me on this part of the journey so far and go out there. Don't be the muse, be the somebody.